I now call to order the regular session meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, May 20th, 2014 at 6:30. Roll call.
Mayor Archie,
Here.
Vice Mayor Larson,
Here.
Commissioner Tarpon,
Here.
Commissioner Banther,
Here.
Commissioner Seaver.
Here.
Our invocation tonight will be given by Reverend Milton Smith of Mount Hermon Missionary Baptist Church. Will everyone stand? Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance following.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we come to you tonight to give thanks for this beautiful day which you have blessed us to enjoy. We thank you for this wonderful city, the city of Tarpon Springs. We pray your blessings upon this city. We pray your blessings upon our city leaders, the mayor, the commissioners, those that protect us, the policemen and the firemen. We especially pray for the children being honored here tonight. Now, Lord, we actually bless this meeting, grant wisdom and knowledge that the things that will be discussed tonight and decisions made will be honorable in your sight. We ask all these glorious blessings in your name, and the one who gave all for many, we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we have a special presentation, and that's for the 4.0 students, Enterprise Village, and the Teen Council representatives. Will all of the commissioners come up on the stage, and we will proceed from there. We'll turn this over now to Ms. Manousis.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Just one quick announcement. Tonight's presentation meeting will air at various times throughout the week on the city's government access channel. You can check our website for listing of days and times. Our first item this evening is recognition of the Tarpon Springs Teen Council members. Tonight we recognize the following seniors who served on the Tarpon Springs Teen Council for Tarpon Springs Senior High School. They are Kayla Cruz and Kahini Trifo. Not here. Okay. Next we'll recognize two students who represented the city of Tarpon Springs as mayor of Enterprise Village during the 2013-2014 school year. From Tarpon Springs Elementary School, Panayoti Chigueras. And from Sunset Hills Elementary School, Nelson Pott. Our next item is recognition of students who maintained a 4.0 grade point average or higher for the entire school year. From Sunset Hills Elementary School, Nicolas Antonio. Ethan Oranger. And please forgive me if I mispronounce the names. Brianna Briscoe. Braden Cliff. Haley Dittmar. John Corsiotis. Stelio Monacandalis. Danielle Santhouse. Alex Schmidt. Peter Soriano. Connor Reedy. Samantha Blischek. Natasha Eisen-Theron. And Alexa Cooper. I'm sorry, that was Tarpon Springs Elementary School. Sorry about that. From Tarpon Springs Fundamental School, Faith Crump. Olivia Chulu. Nicholas DeAndrea. Catherine Eaton. Kate Hamrick. Ryan Hazelton. Aiden Hogan. Emerson Jordan. Brooke Cashton. Logan Mackin. Dylan Nelson. Bryant Paez. Ileana Patterson. Allison Schmeiser. And Olivia Walton. Eighth graders from Tarpon Springs Middle School, Brianna Acuna. Keegan Carr. Ariana Clark. Alexander DeCoulis. Savannah Gambrill. Madison Gillespie. Madison Gillespie. Kimberly Goldenack. No. Maxwell Hanby. Zenquavia Harris. Austin Hind. Christina Kemble Cook. Catherine Khalil. Molly Cole. Asmatos Kulyas. Eleni Lambrianis. Linnea Liebert. Linnea Listener. Hunter Long. Victoria Maddox. Gracie Magoulas. Coleman Mansfield. Connor Marley. Leanna Moore. Florjan Mukaj. No, okay. Ariana Papsis. Mitchell Peterson. Okay. Samantha Rogar. Kelly Rowland. Jackson Rowland. Logan Sapp. Jacob Sheldon. Alexa Smiley. No. Sarah Tinsley. Victoria Volby. Amber Venzel. Jack Wiley. Maria Williams. And Catherine Zeronius. Seniors from Tarpon Springs High School, Christina Angeliitis. Andrea Ballard. Caitlin Balsamo. Nicole Bassano. Kelsey Collins. Kayla Delaney. Josiah Dyke. Taylor Egg. Michael Klukowski. Christina Hargreaves. No. Mark Hogan. Mark Hokenga. Oops. Jacob Hope. Chelsea Hudgens. Ryan James. Kyle Johnson. Kyle Johnson. Casey Jones. Casey Jones. Jamie Ann Jocelyn. Keegan Lapham. Austin Lazari. Cecilia Lee. Zoe Lakakis. Ashley Lolar. Caroline Lutz. Sheridan Markham. Maria Pantelis. James Polchik. Sorry. Sophia Perez. Megan Philbin. Lauren Ruth. Aiden Skurdy. Vanessa Singh. Amy Swope. Kahini Trifo. Stephanie Tsunis. Rebecca Turnbow. Maurice Turner. Stand by, we have one more. Tarpon Springs Middle School, Florin Mukaj. Ladies and gentlemen, those are your fifth graders from Sunset Hills, Tarpon Springs Elementary, Tarpon Springs Fundamental, your eighth graders from Tarpon Springs Middle School, and your seniors from Tarpon Springs High School. We'll now take a brief recess, and parents, you can meet your kids in the south entrance where they were dropped off.
Where's David?
I don't know why they're all leaving.
You text David?
The rest? It's better than
always
painful. You
remember.
understand why?
Hey, great. You good, right?
I'm like, oh, if I took this jacket off, it's raining. It's hot standing up there.
Well, there's a presentation I was going to be part of.
Yeah, you're gonna get it here, honey. You're gonna get it here. Good, good. I saw your boy. I'm like, this is Linda's son.
I'm trying. You know, I try to stay on the track.
You walked in as he's doing it.
Thank you very much.
You look more comfortable though. You gotta be on time, okay? Was that the one that interviewed me? Yeah. Okay, all right.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, fun starts. All right, thanks.
Yoko, you're leaving too.
Anytime, always available to the press.
I know, right?
Yes.
I'm basically done with my rough draft's done. I'm basically done with my proposal. So when I get it done, I'll give it to you and ask if you'd still be willing to fill that in support. Awesome. Good to see you. Yeah, appreciate it.
How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for coming tonight.
Absolutely.
Oh, Yanni, okay.
How you doing?
Commissioner, how are you?
Good to see you. Jeff Larson, good to see you.
Hi.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
How are you doing, sir? Good to see you.
Oh, yes.
Hey, how are you?
Almost.
Too?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maria.
Pays off to have Greek clerks.
Yeah, wasn't that?
You put me up there, it would be people be protesting.
Right.
Are you looking?
Hi,
You can barely say my
I'm
words.
Maria.
That,
Yeah.
that kind of flows.
Do
Get
as appreciated.
the hang of it every time.
I
It kind
can
of
even
flows.
spell your name.
Well, don't ask me to spell that.
Thank you, yes.
Hi, Brad. Yeah, Townsend Tarpon. It's good to see you. Yeah, I remember. Yep. Well, glad to have you.
Mr. Schuler, how are you? Very good.
How you doing?
There you go.
I was trying to pose for a picture.
I got it, too.
Yes, sir. David Banther.
Congratulations on your daughter. Yes.
I don't know why everyone
know.
left. I thought they were all here for green light. I guess not.
Yeah, you got some great kids.
Oh, so they make you come out.
Which item was first? That item was first, and then they all cleared out.
How much you take? Sure, go ahead. Go ahead. You know, we got time. How you doing, sir? How's everything? Doing well? Another great day in the great city of Tarpon, you know. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
That was a 1 in 10 year event. We had 20 lines.
I don't know how to clear.
So, you know, I'm glad your boss is doing.
Way down the counter, which I'm trying to do because it's like an artery being just choked off. You're done.
Oh.
It's awful.
Hi. Oh, thank you.
Well, you couldn't because the lines are straight across the road, both sides. At 20, right across the road.
You can make it snow it here.
Works for me.
Want the jacket stays on?
Yeah, sounds good.
Say again, 107?
107.
Yeah, at possibly. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. And we guess you guys are here for Green Life Now? There you go. What's up, Jay? Same old stuff.
1 minute with the most popular house.
Everybody's gone.
Leftovers.
We should do that at the end of the agenda.
Yeah.
They'd be asleep back
that
there.
was for one time. I think we're kind of hearing.
We have a rumbling back. Yeah, we have a rumbling behind us.
Wait on.
It'd be educational.
Oh, you ready to use that? Oh.
Okay. That was a pair of panties for a second. That was a pair of panties for a second.
Mark look for somebody.
I hope he has a TV up there or something or entertain the sound booth guy.
You don't think this is entertaining?
Oh, it is to me, but maybe not. That is true. Oh, very good. Oh, if you had if you guys have the little light things or the cameras.
Yeah, I mean, 30 minutes.
Back in the day, that big camera, one of the little camera. Like to see what's in there back in the meetup. Oh, I bet.
And they're very good. And what they do in terms of lighting, they really add a lot.
You can put that hair as low as you want it to go.
Okay. It's that one, Thailand. Tarpon, yeah. Can I use the clip? Sweet. gets up there fast. I wonder if that's a shame that that's true interception.
We will now reconvene with public comments. We will ask anyone that might have public comments, come to the podium, state your name, address for the record on any item that will not be discussed this evening.
Dan Chulu, 426 Tarpon Springs, 426 Innes Drive, Tarpon Springs. Thank you very much, Commissioner. I want to thank you all very much for your service to this community. Thank you very much, Mayor and Commissioners, for recognizing our children in this community for their excellent achievements. And we really do appreciate it as parents, and I thank you very much for that recognition. One thing I'd like to bring up, if I may, and that is regarding, I know it's county land or county roadway, and I know Beckett Bridge is county project, but I ask that you commissioners consider, and I implore you commissioners to consider working with the commissioners for the county, and that is when we do Beckett Bridge, or the county does do Beckett Bridge, that we work with them to try to do something on Spring Bayou from Alt 19 all the way around to Beckett Bridge, and then Spring Boulevard as it comes all the way around going out towards Riverside Drive. You know, that road is deplorable, has been for decades, and I know there's going to be a lot of trucks going up and on that road, and it's kind of like if you take a pipe, I'm going to relate it to, if you got a half-inch pipe going into a 4-inch water line, and then you bring it back down to a half-inch pipe. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Our road right now leading up to that bridge is deplorable, 2 lanes tight at best, and then we're going to open it up in this beautiful bridge. And it would be nice if when we close the bridge, if we could also have the county close the road, not I mean to local traffic, but close the road, get the infrastructure in, get the sewer lines in, get the power lines in, so that when you, the city, service the community on that avenue, the service vehicles that come through, we're not fighting continual truck construction during that phase. So I ask you to please put it on a workshop agenda, try to work with our county commissioners, and do one project in one fell swoop. Thank you all very much, and again, appreciate your recognition to the kids. Have a good night.
Thank you. And I know our favorite commissioner has heard those comments.
And I will speak to it.
Chris Roboski, 1602 Gulf Beach Boulevard, Tarpon Springs, 34689. First, I'd like to thank the entire city staff and the city manager for getting this agenda posted on the website more than 7 days in advance. This is what I've been talking about, that you've proven that you can do it, and thank you for making that possible. I knew that it could be done. I'd still prefer 2 weeks, but 1 week's a whole lot better than 3 days. Having said that, I mean, I realize that there will be more sunshine in the city of Tarpon Springs. More people will be able to view the agenda, speak about it with their neighbors, talk about it, learn about it, do research before coming to meetings like this tonight. And again, having said all that, after walking home from a meeting, it was a budget advisory meeting a couple weeks ago, I was walking by the bayou, and the shoreline project is there. And it was a couple of blocks after I passed, it dawned on me that I saw kids standing on those rocks, fishing. And it didn't hit me at first how dangerous that was. I mean, when I see that project, I think about how ugly it is and how unfortunate the way it turned out. But, you know, aside from the litigation that could happen and the liability issues that could happen for some kid stepping on a rock, the rock slips, breaks that kid's leg off. I mean, nobody wants that. Nobody wants some child to be losing life or limb, quite literally, because those rocks are huge. That project, if it had been given the same sort of sunlight that I've been talking about and had been explained to this commission, we would have known that there would just be rocks there. You can't just go put a sign up that says don't play on the rocks. It's not going to work. Kids will do it anyway. Can't put a fence around it because that'll be more ugly than it is now. You're going to have to build a boardwalk across that. And if we had discussed it beforehand, we could have budgeted for that boardwalk before the project began, and they could have already started on the boardwalk right now. So that's the kind of foresight we need, and you get that when an entire city can discuss a project of that nature, of that, millions of dollars, and all of that area being affected, all those people's lives being affected that live in that area and people that drive on those roads. We deserved an opportunity for more presentations about that project so that we could work together to prevent some tragedy like that. And as I stand here now, that could be happening. There could be kids on there getting hurt. Nobody wants that, man. And every one of you, it would be on all of your heads for not asking. Well, at least one commissioner was demanding answers, and he didn't get them. He was asking for more presentation, but, I mean, that's the kind of stuff you got to be asking questions about. You can't just wait till a project's over and then get upset about it. You got to ask questions and demand answers from the city staff and from the city manager, the ones that I just congratulated for doing such a great job on getting this agenda appointed. So that's the kind of stuff we can do as a city together. And we had better get on that, because if somebody does get hurt, just like I said, we're all going to be hanging our heads low for not having done everything we could have done to prevent that tragedy. Thank you.
Mike Kuskudis, 623 Tarpon Avenue. What I like about this city, not only does it give citizens the opportunity to come and voice things that are very important, but also to come and use this microphone to express sometimes views that are not very important. And I'm here to talk about something that's not very important. But I play softball, and we utilize Rotary Park a lot. I talk with a lot of other softball players who use the park. And one of the things that is lacking, first of all, I'd like to commend the Parks Department for the job they do in maintaining the fields. The biggest problem is over the years, all the runoff from the rain, that clay has been washed away. When we get a good rain, you actually can see the irrigation pipes on the infield. I think it's at some point in time that the city Parks Department needs to look at bringing in some additional clay to level out the field and to allow or at least get it to drain better. They do the best they can in trying to grade that field, but that field is used often. It's a good field. It's excellent condition, but it does need some help, and I think a couple truckloads of clay would go a long way in preventing all the erosion that's happened. Because when you go to bat and you see the white irrigation pipe running along behind home plate, it's time to look at that and make those corrections. And I appreciate the time. Thank you.
There are no other comments. We'll go to proclamations, and item number 1 is National Public Works Week. This proclamation reads, City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works system and programs such as water, sewers, streets, highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health and safety and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the City of Tarpon Springs recognizes the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Now, therefore, I, David Archie, by virtue of authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Tarpon Springs, do hereby proclaim the week of May 18th through May 24th, 2014 as National Public Works Week. And Mr. Smith? It's not here, so we'll put that there. Tonight we have a presentation, Green Light Pinellas, PSTA. I think we have the director, Mr. Or
I'm going to introduce him.
We have our commissioner, Ms. Susan Lapvala, here starting it off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and Chief. Thank you for allowing us to come tonight and update you on the referendum that's going to be on the ballot in November regarding a 1-cent increase in sales tax to pay for enhanced transit in our community. I can't tell you how important this is to the entire county. I don't want to step on Brad's toes and take the his words, but as your county commissioner and a member of the PSTA board, I just can't emphasize how important this is to the future of Pinellas County. You all know and understand that we're a built-out community. We've spent hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars on roads, and there's no land to build anymore. People keep coming here, and the congestion gets worse and worse and worse. The only way to relieve that is through public transit. And it'll really move our county and our region into the 21st century. So I hope after this presentation tonight that you're as excited about it as I am, and that ultimately your commission will pass a resolution in support of Greenlight Pinellas. I want to invite all of you, if you have questions after tonight and after what Brad answers, if you want to meet with me privately, I'd be happy to. I will spend all the time it takes to make sure that you get the information you need to be comfortable with Greenlight so that you all can support it. And I look forward to talking to you and working with you over the next few months to get this very important project approved in our county. While I have the podium, I'll address the Beckett Bridge issue. And Mr. Mayor, if you prefer, I'll get an answer from the county staff. At our last update on the Beckett Bridge, the staff is looking into those roads and trying to see if we have the money and the wherewithal to do that at the same time, which usually saves money when you do a project like that in conjunction with another one. But I will get back to you and let you know what the answer is.
Thank you. We definitely appreciate it.
All right, and now I'd like to introduce Brad Miller, the CEO of PSTA, and he'll make the presentation to you. Again, thank you all for allowing us to be here tonight.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Tarpon Commission. Thank you very much to Commissioner Latvala for a great introduction about Greenlight Pinellas. Also here tonight is the Vice Mayor of Safety Harbor, Mr. Cliff Mers, who is your Tarpon Springs representative on the PSTA board. That's a rotating position. Your former Commissioner Alahousas was the PSTA board member prior to Mr. Mers, and now he's here tonight also as your PSTA representative. The PSTA board has 15 board members. I serve as the CEO of PSTA. I've been here to speak to your commission before, and I'm honored to be here tonight. I came here prior to talk about the Jolly Trolley, and that's been a very successful service. Also tonight, I just want to introduce Mr. Bob Clifford, who is the CEO or Executive Director of the Clearwater Chamber of Commerce, and also involved with the private Vote Yes on Greenlight private campaign that is getting up and running to advocate on behalf of this referendum, as well as Mr. Joe Farrell, who's also with that campaign. And then also with me is Bob Lasher, my public information officer at PSTA. And Bob has provided you with a brochure and some other materials at your places. So my PowerPoint tonight will be very, very short. And all of the details are basically in this brochure that you all have, and you're welcome to ask me any questions about that. I'll quickly just start by noting that I've been the CEO of PSTA for the last 3 years, and it was back in the summer of 2011 when I started, and probably one of the first major issues, of course, that happens every September, just like in the city, is the budget approval for PSTA. And the commissioner, Mr. Alahousas, voted against the PSTA budget on my second meeting. He was the only no vote, and I wasn't sure about what happened there, but he explained himself. And he said, well, like a lot of county services, the amount of public transit services provided by PSTA to the city of Tarpon Springs was not sufficient enough for him to support the budget. And he said, there's just not enough service up to Tarpon Springs. After a great lunch on the Sponge Docks, a Greek lunch with Mr. Halousis and your city manager, and over the last 3 years, a couple of breakfasts and other meetings with Mayor Archie, I could say that I understand that, and I would perhaps agree. There's not enough service, public transit services, to the city of Tarpon Springs under our current funding program. But I'm going to present to you why I'm confident under the Greenlight Pinellas plan that will change. That the city of Tarpon Springs will see such an increase in the amount of service under this plan that it's worthy of your support. And I think if he was on the PSTA board in the future, he might support that budget. Now, I am the head of PSTA, so I am obviously somewhat biased, and I think the Greenlight Pinellas plan provides quite a bit of value. But obviously, if you don't know me, I come from a transit background. My dad was involved in public transit. I was a bus for Halloween, not once, but on 2 occasions, and I pretty much eat and breathe this stuff. But I understand perhaps maybe you don't. I think most of the presentations I've made, and I go around the county. I was in Seminole and St. Petersburg giving presentations earlier today. People don't ride the buses, perhaps. I don't know how many of you have, raise your hand if you've ridden the Jolly Trolley or a PSTA bus in the last couple years. Oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. How many of you think under this Greenlight Pinellas plan, when the service is vastly increased and improved, that you'll be a rider of the service? Maybe a few more. I think that's pretty common. I don't hold that against you. I think, as you know, you all as a commission are looking for what's best for Tarpon Springs and what can make Tarpon Springs a quality place to live and for families to live and raise their kids, and that the Greenlight Pinellas plan, by providing a transportation alternative for walkable, livable streets in Tarpon Springs, can provide that value to the citizens of Tarpon Springs. That same kind of question, I know, is going to happen this coming November. Many people are going to have to vote in support of the Greenlight Pinellas plan this November on the ballot that probably will never use the system. We have a growing and a record ridership on the system, but far and away, there's many, many more people that live in the county that can't use the system because it doesn't meet their needs. I came previously I worked in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this is a map of Charlotte, North Carolina in my presentation, and they passed a sales tax just like we're talking about in 1998. And this is a map of the transit system as it's grown. It's doubled thanks to that vote by the citizens. Same thing happened in 1998 in Charlotte. Most of the people that voted for that sales tax are not riding the bus, are not riding the trains that they've built there. It is not the people that voted for that. It is their kids. And it is young people that are moving to Charlotte. Many of those grew up in the suburbs of Charlotte. Their parents maybe voted for the referendum, but they were growing up. That's the home of NASCAR. They love cars. And then they went off to college, and they are now coming back because our youngest generation of people are choosing to live based on where they have transportation options. And I saw that happen in Charlotte. They are moving back in by the thousands to live in apartments and buy homes along the transit lines where they're growing, they're getting jobs, they're raising families, and they're living there. And that's what will happen in Pinellas County with this vote as well. That's the most important thing I can leave you with tonight is, although this service, this Greenlight Pinellas initiative will bring a lot more buses and trains to Pinellas County, this has very little to do with buses and trains. It is about our community and providing our community with an alternative method of growing and building its transportation system, not necessarily for us, but for our kids, for the children that were here in Tarpon Springs, about providing them with a future that you are providing and looking forward for them. So how will this Greenlight Pinellas initiative improve the quality of life in Tarpon Springs. I think no matter who you are or what situation you're in, you can see value in the Greenlight Pinellas plan. First, of course, for the young people that I just mentioned. Those folks are driving less. They're getting fewer driver's license here in the Tampa Bay area and in Pinellas County, and they're riding transit more. They are choosing where they live based on the provision of public transportation. They're moving to places like Austin, Texas, or Washington, D.C., or Atlanta to have jobs there. The tourists are certainly going to benefit from the Greenlight Pinellas plan. Right now, the Jolly Trolley services that are very popular with the tourists, obviously, they come to Tarpon Springs every hour, and they only come on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Under the Greenlight Pinellas plan, the Jolly Trolley service would be expanded to 7 days a week service to Tarpon Springs and be doubled and run every half hour. So you don't have to figure out your entire schedule based on the trolley to get to Tarpon Springs, but you can go have dinner here and then catch the next one coming back. It'll be much more frequent, and it'll be a great boon for the tourists along the beaches. All of the trolleys up and down the coast will be doubled, at least. It's about our senior citizens. And seniors, the AARP has just come out with a study that shows that they're doing the same thing that the young people are doing. More and more seniors are choosing to live or retire to places where they have alternative transportation, like moving to places like Phoenix or Miami, where they have alternative transportation, where they can live in their home or live in a place where they can use alternative transportation. They certainly will benefit from this. Folks that can't ride the regular bus will benefit from using our dark paratransit program as well. And it's also, I wanted to mention, it is also something that I think we can do to help our veterans. At PSTA, we are constantly hiring. We're always hiring and looking for new bus drivers, and we want to be some of our best employees are obviously our veterans. I want PSTA to be a place where veterans know they can come and get a job. I mean, quite frankly, anyone who can drive safely can come and get a job at PSTA because we're hiring. But the first place we should look is for our veterans. And under the Greenlight Pinellas plan, we can put preferences into our contracts for our contractors who are helping us implement the Greenlight plan to hire veterans. Finally, a great value for you at the city of Tarpon Springs. Right now you are paying, I think, about $25,000 a year out of your general fund budget for the Jolly Trolley. You, like the other cities that are paying for the Jolly Trolley, that will go away if the Greenlight Pinellas plan passes, and you will no longer have to pay PSTA, and the sales tax will pay for the Jolly Trolley services, a quite expanded version of the Jolly Trolley that you see out there today. Probably most importantly, of course, this plan is about accessing jobs. That's what this Greenlight Pinellas plan is most about. There are new, we don't even have them today, express commuter buses planned for Tarpon Springs. Park and ride lots in Tarpon Springs, catching all those Pasco commuters that are using our roads in Pinellas County really to head on over to Tampa. They can park their car and then catch an express bus, Wi-Fi enabled, over to their job either in West Shore or the Gateway area, Carillon, or downtown Tampa. Same thing for commuters in our county. Those are all the green lines on the map are showing the different express routes that will be implemented under this plan. I don't know if many of you might have seen an article written in the Tampa Bay Times about a month ago by Robert Turgot in the business section talking about Bay Area wages. And what it showed was the Bureau of Labor Statistics showed that of the 334 largest counties in America between 2012 to 2013, Pinellas County ranked last in wage growth. Actually, wages in Pinellas County dropped by 4% to $802 a week. So while the economy is improving in the Tampa Bay area, we're not seeing the high-paying jobs. We're seeing low-paying jobs growing and fewer high and mid-level jobs coming to Pinellas County. Pinellas County, as the Commissioner LaValle mentioned, is built out, as you know. We're not going to be able to grow our way out of this problem about the jobs. We have to redevelop our community, and the Greenlight Pinellas plan is about providing that opportunity, attracting high-paying jobs new industries to come to Pinellas County, where people can live in Tarpon Springs and enjoy their life, and then they can take the commuter lines to where the jobs are. Higher paying jobs will be located. Again, that's the key point of my presentation. I've got a beautiful bus rapid transit line that will be running up and down Tarpon Springs in just a couple years under the Greenlight Plan shown on my screen, where you won't have to, the bus will run faster. It'll run like a rail system where you pay for your ticket at the station, and then all the doors open up, and you hop on, and you go head on down the road. It'll be timed with the signals. For transit geeks like myself, that's awesome, but this is not about buses and trains. It is about attracting jobs and improving our quality of life throughout Pinellas County, and especially for you here in Tarpon Springs. My last point, and it's a very important point, is I know this is a vote in November, and so people want to ask, well, what's in it for me right now? Even if you would never ride the public transit services and say, well, that might be good for other people, but not for me, you might want to take a look at how this is funded. Again, what is on the ballot this coming November is a 1% sales tax to fund the public transit system, and at the same time, the PSTA property tax that Tarpon Springs is paying today, homeowners and residents of landowners in Tarpon Springs are paying, would go away. I looked up what the median home value in Tarpon Springs comes out to be $204,000 for an owner-occupied home in Tarpon Springs. They are paying PSTA right now for a very limited amount of service, a little bit of Jolly Trolley and a bus on US 19 every hour, $112 in property tax. Under the Greenlight Pinellas Plan, that goes away. That goes to zero, and that family saves $112. At the same time, they pay a penny sales tax that the IRS estimates for a family of 4 at the income of Tarpon Springs would be $110. It actually nets out to be a savings. Whether they ever ride or never ride, they'll actually have lower taxes under this plan. It's something certainly to consider when you're looking to perhaps pass a resolution of endorsement of this Greenlight Pinellas Plan. For Tarpon Springs, it might make sense mainly on the way public transit is funded. Right? For many years, Tarpon Springs has been paying the property tax, and as Commissioner Latval has said many times at PSTA, because of your property values, you're paying a substantial amount for buses to run down in St. Petersburg, and much more service in the southern part of the county, and you're getting less in return. This is a much fairer way, spreading the tax base out over the tourists and based on consumption, that you might consider being a better way to support public transit. Again, this is a 1% sales tax. That works out to 2 cents on your Starbucks large coffee, $1.80 on your Vizio flat screen TV you buy at Best Buy, and 0 on groceries and medicine, something very important for our seniors. Obviously, there's many exemptions in the sales tax. The Greenlight Pinellas Plan is an opportunity, as Commissioner Latval said, for Tarpon Springs and Pinellas County to take the lead on this issue. We've learned a lot from what happened in Hillsborough County in 2010. We're reaching consensus. We're trying to build consensus around the community for this. I think we've done a very good job of that so far. And this is a way to make our community one of the most desirable places to live in the United States. The Greenlight Pinellas Plan will provide that option. So let me just quickly summarize. There are 3 key messages that I think help Tarpon Springs support this initiative. Number 1, this will lower your property taxes. The PSTA property tax will go away, and for the average, many citizens, the majority of citizens in Tarpon Springs, they'll actually save money on this system. This will provide a substantially improved transit system for Tarpon Springs, vastly increased service, and it will provide a transit system that will allow us not to have to widen roads anymore. And finally, it's about attracting high-paying jobs to our community, high-paying jobs that our kids can get after they go away to college or maybe stay here and go to college, and they can stay here in our great community and raise their families like we have. Thank you very much. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
First, I just want to thank you, Mr. Miller, for coming in and not only making this presentation, but doing something that you know that we've had some conversations about, is that's to talk specifically about how it benefits the residents of Tarpon and North Pinellas. So I'm glad that you're talking about those things that, you know, we can share with our residents. Our residents can find out what happens if they vote to approve green light, you know, the improved services, the dollars that we now spend for as tax dollars for as the trolley going away, increased trolley services, all of those things to me helps residents to make that decision that green light will be better for them as well as the other part of the county. So I just want to thank you personally for bringing those things to our attention. You know. And with that, I don't know if the commission has any. Commissioner Banther?
Yes, thank you. I think that this is a great idea. I'm not completely sold on it yet just because, I don't, at least in this country, I've never used public transport. Well, I have in D.C. and New York, but never in Florida. My main concern for Tarpon Springs, because I just don't think it's completely realistic to think that people are just going to want to hop on a bus or a train, which I do give the exception of the trolley. I know a lot of folks that use that trolley, and that does have a very good connection between Tarpon and Dunedin, and that's something to point out too, that it has benefited a lot. People will tend to come down here to eat. I know folks that drive back and then like the bars in Dunedin and things like that, so I'm happy that this will increase that kind of service. But for public transport, I'm just a bit hesitant. But at the same time, though, I don't wish to ride it. I do want to make sure we do have adequate transport for those that live in Tarpon Springs that do need it, especially low-income and seniors. And so I'll be interested to study more about this plan and how that relates to that. So you mentioned that basically if you average it out, each homeowner would pay a few dollars less per month, correct?
That's per year.
Per year, per year. You know, but then another thing I have is I feel that a lot of the benefits are centered down county, and then we're all paying the same tax on that. But that's just the nature of our system here. And you said that one thing to point out too. I don't think you did that. It's only on the first $5,000 for large items, which I think is good as well.
That's right.
Because that could affect vehicle purchases and things like that. So I think it's an interesting concept. I'm going to study it more before I make my choice. Again, I'm naturally hesitant, but I do want to make sure that for those in our city that do need buses and things of this nature, that they do have access to that. And I would like to see more trolley service because I have seen how that does help restaurants here in Tarpon Springs. So thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no commissioners,
I just want to say I grew up overseas, and as Commissioner Latvala said, bringing Pinellas County into the 21st century is a great idea. I know when I moved to Florida, I couldn't get around, and I see students who don't have who don't have transportation, or seniors, which I think will be a great advantage. Also, the trolley system increasing. I do ride the Jolly Trolley, and we need more increased service to bring tourists and for our citizens to ride. So I thank you for your presentation, and I definitely think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to first thank you for being here this evening for the presentation. And I do appreciate the fact that it was clearly catered to Tarpon Springs, that the presentation was Tarpon Springs specific. I do support Greenlight Pinellas. I think it's important in Pinellas County that we expand our transportation options. I am especially excited about the expansion of the Jolly Trolley service. And for people that are opposed to it, I guess one way of looking at it is kind of like with education. I mean, in the state of Florida, we have a large number of people who, grew up somewhere else, had their kids somewhere else, and maybe they come here to retire, and maybe they don't want to pay for education because they don't have kids anymore. But to have quality education in Pinellas County obviously is good for the entire county, even if someone isn't going to have kids going through school at that point in time. And I think transportation is much the same, that for us to have quality transportation options that benefits the entire county. And I think it's important that we look in that direction and hopefully see Green Light Pinellas get passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on this item? If you have something, please come state your name, address for the record, then you'll be given up to 4 minutes.
Good evening. Bob Clifford, 1406 Manatee Circle, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34689. Thank you for this opportunity. In the previous introduction, I am the President and CEO of the Clearwater Chamber of Commerce, but I'm also the Chairman of the Board of the Jolly Trolley System. We greatly appreciate the support that we've received from Tarpon Springs, and I think you all are seeing the value every day as we see our children being able to be transported down to Clearwater Beach for a day at the beach without moms and dads having to load them up in the car, take them down there, try to find a parking space, drop them off, maybe turn around and come back, and then have to go back down to pick them up again. These are all features of public transportation, and we are thoroughly convinced that with a 65% increase in the frequency and the routes throughout Pinellas County, that Tarpon Springs is definitely going to benefit from that. My daughter's a graduate of Tarpon Springs High School, had a tremendous experience here. We're 35-year residents of the area, and we really want to see Tarpon Springs flourish with a great emphasis on its past history. But we do have a situation with with our retirees, with our millennials, with people that don't have many of the options that we have with 2 cars in the driveway, both of them working. A lot of our folks have 1 car in the driveway and it's not working. And it severely impacts especially our lower income service people that we're so dependent upon in Pinellas County. We want to change that with Green Light Pinellas, and we hope you'll find it something that you can support with a resolution supporting Green Light Pinellas. Thank you.
Good evening. Lisa Sibley, 1165 West Curlew Place. I've lived in Tarpon Springs for 7 years, and I have been a Pinellas County resident since 1971. As a Ecker College graduate living in Tarpon Springs, it was pure hell, excuse my French, trying to drive from Tarpon Springs to South County. So I'm all for Green Light Pinellas. I'm already done with my drive, but our roads are really rough. And I think that one of the projects I was working on this year for our city was our mermaid, and we didn't think a lot of people would like that. So I think that we need to start somewhere. We found that everybody loved the mermaid, and I think transit needs to start somewhere, and Green Light Pinellas is a great start. So I do hope that you all will support it. Thank you.
Jim Coliana, Circle Drive. I'm not opposed to mass transportation. I had to utilize mass transportation when I worked out of the state. However, I don't think we get all the answers we need, and I would ask that maybe in the future we have a special session so that the public at large knows this is going to happen, and we're going to talk specifically about that. I didn't hear tonight what lane of US 19 between Tarpon Springs and St. Petersburg or Tampa they're going to give up to get the fast buses to run. And anybody that drives on 19 right now knows what a horrific situation that is. You can't give up a lane. We're not going to build an elevated track to come to Tarpon Springs. So it has some advantages, but it has some disadvantages. My main concern is that none of these systems throughout the United States have proved profitable. And I would like some assurance that if this one equally goes that way, that they don't come back and say, well, we're not making it on the penny for Pinellas, maybe we got to go up another penny, or maybe we got to add it back to your taxes. If it's all as good as everybody's saying, there should be some guarantee for us who are paying for it, the taxpayers. I think those types of questions need to be asked. Those types of questions need to be answered. And the only other thing that comes to my mind is I also read the Tampa Bay Times, and there was an article in there not too long ago that said that we'd be paying a little more in 1 cent, not less. So can we do something like that? I'll leave that up to y'all before you make up your minds and agree or disagree. I'm not saying it's bad. I want to know who's going to pay for it in the long run, because the long run is where it all comes out. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know whether you wanted to talk in terms of, I think that there's nothing there about any type of designated lane as far as bus rapid transit.
That's right.
But just having, places as far as that the bus would be traveling to. But I don't know whether you want to speak to that or not.
Yeah, well, just very briefly, no, there's no proposed taking of lanes of US 19. As he said, it's bad enough as it is, we can't do that. But what we can do is use technology to time the vehicles with the signals, have a signal system so that if the light is about to turn red and the bus rapid transit is coming up to the light, a signal will be sent to extend the green light to allow the bus and actually any cars, if you're trailing, this might be a whole strategy, to go through the green light, the extended green light. That has shown the idea of paying your fare at a station so you don't have to take time doing origami to get your dollar bill into the fare box. There won't be fare boxes on the buses. You'll already have bought your ticket like at a train, and then all the doors are open and closed. That alone, not having to fiddle with the money, has shown other systems savings of 10 or 15% of the time on getting where you need to go. Those are the kind of improvements that were made. As far as the last gentleman said, I mean, absolutely all those questions that he asked need to be answered, and we believe we have really done our due diligence on that, doing a detailed financial study to ensure that this plan can be delivered, even if there's recessions or other impacts down the road, that we have contingencies built in place to make sure that we can deliver on what we're promising today. The idea about having the property tax come back, I think, was one of the potential pitfalls. That I am very confident will never happen. The county commission is going to ensure there's no way a future PSTA board can levy a double taxation for this plan. This is a vote in November for this plan specifically, and it's financially worked out. And again, we will work very hard to deliver what we're planning. Thank you.
Well, again, I'd just like to thank you for coming up, and any of the other civic groups or others out there that would like to. I know Mr. Miller's been all over the county. He would definitely like to come back to Tarpon to make presentations, answer questions, those type of things. So if anybody would like to, they can just get in contact with Mr. Miller. And I know that he would adjust his schedule. And while I have the time, I just thank, Commissioner Latvaler, who is not going to be serving us anymore, but we appreciate all that you've done for us in the 22 years of service from the school board to the county and everything that you've done, including trying to get some things done for us now as far as Beckett Bridge and those roads and stuff are concerned. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, David, and it's truly been my honor to represent all of Pinellas County for the last 22 years, and greatest honor of my life, and I thank you for the support over those years.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to our consent agenda. Attorney fees, Trask, Matz, Dano LLP invoice number 45540, Zinzao Law invoice number 13516, for special events. Rescheduled day for night in the Islands, May 24th. Day of Worship, Kingdom Life Church, June 1st. Independence Day celebration, City of Tarpon Springs, July 4th. 5 is renewed file number 1200005-C-JJ U.S. Communities Purchasing Alliance RFP number 11019 for purchase of maintenance, repair, and operating supplies. 6 is renew RFQ number 10033-S-JJ Continuing Services Wastewater Engineer. 7 is award bid number 140063-B CM furnish and deliver route mix for the golf course. 8 is award file number 140070-C-DM playground equipment through the U.S. Communities Purchasing Alliance Master Agreement number 110179. 9 is authorized utilization of National Joint Powers Association NJPA contract number 042911 surplus asset liquidation and or auction services with related solutions. Any item anyone would like to?
I just want to say that I'm very happy that we're improving the playground over at Riverside Park. My daughter plays there, and it's in desperate need, almost to the point of hurting somebody. That we replaced that equipment, and I think we did it at a pretty affordable price. And so whatever we can do to always keep the playgrounds up and running, I think is a great thing. And I would motion to approve.
I just had one question, Mayor, on 4C. I don't necessarily need to pull it. It's in relation to the fireworks display, and my question to the city manager is, excuse me, last year I know there was discussion that we were going to be able to have the $5,000 fee waived by the county to utilize Howard Park, and I'm just confirming that that was also done this year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, and the parking will be, the parking fee for out there will be suspended at 6.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, same agreement as last year in essence.
It's been a motion.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next is special consent agenda, item 12, for award bid number 140050-B-JJ, concentrate injection well, 1 IW-1 to Applied Drilling Engineering Incorporated. Mr. Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Bob Robertson. I'm the Public Services Program Manager and Project Manager for the Alternative Water Supply Project. This item does pertain to the Alternative Water Supply Project, and we're seeking tonight the board's authorization to issue a contract to Applied Drilling Engineering Incorporated to drill the injection well that I've been briefing the board about. This is for the disposal of the RO concentrate. It includes 2 associated monitoring wells. The injection well is currently permitted and was publicly noticed by the FDEP as an exploratory well, and will have to undergo a testing period before it can be converted to an operational well. But this contract is to go out and actually drill that well first. The project schedule is currently intended to get this well operational prior to the startup of the RO plant next year. The funding source for this drilling contract is the Alternative Water Supply Construction Fund, and although it is not eligible for grant funding, it was included as part of the bond financing, which is already in place for the RO project. The winning bid of $1.84 million is under the budget, and we've worked with this contractor as a winning bidder for other well drilling in the past. In fact, they've drilled almost all the water supply wells for the city and have been outstanding. They've been consistent and very economical. After approval of this contract and authorization, we'll begin a neighborhood communication plan shortly after the contract is executed to keep the neighbors notified of the construction. If there are any questions, I'm glad to answer those.
Any questions, Mr. Robertson? Chair will entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next, we go to ordinance and resolutions. Ordinance 2014-10, floodplain management, second reading.
Ordinance 2014-10, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending Chapter 6 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs by amending Article 6, floodplain management, by amending Article 1, Section 6-1 of the Local Administrative Amendments to the 2010 Florida Building Code, providing for applicability, repealer, severability, and an effective date. That is the second reading of Ordinance 2014-10 by title only. This ordinance was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only on May 9, 2014.
I'll go ahead and take this item. As you know, Mr. DePasqua is not going to be here this evening from the email that I sent you, as we're talking about his employment status and talking about the acceptance of a resignation, so he's not here for this item or the future item. But essentially, this is the same as the first reading and mandated to perform and get into our records to, of course, adhere to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and there's no changes, so we'd like you to approve that at this time so we can get those instituted and be in line with where we need to be.
If no questions, Chair will entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Mr. Banther?
Yes.
Mr. Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item 12 is application 14-14, Furman Chevrolet and Volvo annexation, second reading.
Ordinance 2014-07, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, annexing approximately 10.99 acres more or less of real property lying in the north one-half of Section 06, Township 27 South, Range 16 East, located at 43520 U.S. Highway 19 North, providing for findings and providing an effective date. It's the second reading of Ordinance 2014-07 by title only. It was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only on April 6 and May 9, 2014.
Vincent, you're going to take all three together, the second reading. I don't know if there's anything new.
There's been no additional information that needs to be added to the public record, and staff recommendation is to approve all three ordinances as they are drafted and presented during the first public hearing. Thank you.
With that, I guess Chair will entertain a motion for its ordinance 2014-07 annexation.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Mr. Banther?
Yes.
Mr. Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. B is ordinance 2014-08, future land use designation. Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Let me read the second reading.
Yeah, okay.
Please. Ordinance 2014-08, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the future land use map of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida for annexed property lying in the north half of Section 06, Township 27 South, Range 16 East, located at 43520 U.S. Highway 19 North, from Pinellas County future land use designation of ROR Residential Office Retail to City of Tarpon Springs, future land use designation of ROR Residential Office Retail, providing for findings and providing an effective date. It's a second reading of Ordinance 2014-09 by title only. Was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only on April 6 and May 9, 2014.
Any public comments on this item? Did we get a motion?
Yes.
Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Mr. Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item C is ordinance 2014-09, zoning classifications.
Ordinance 2014-09, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida for annexed property lying in the north half of Section 06, Township 27 South, Range 16 East, located at 43520 U.S. Highway 19 North, from Pinellas County, zoning designation of CP1, Commercial Parkway District, to City of Tarpon Springs, zoning designation of HB, Highway Business District, providing for findings and providing an effective date. It's a second reading of Ordinance 2014-09 by title only, published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only on April 6 and May 9, 2014.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Mr. Banther?
Yes.
Mr. Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. We now go to item 13, Resolution 2014-17, authorizing submission of grant application for archaeological GIS predictive model.
Resolution 2014-17, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Division of Historical Resources of the Florida Department of State for Florida certified local governments to develop an archaeological GIS predictive model for the City of Tarpon Springs planning area. Resolution 2014-17 by title only.
Spencer.
Thank you. The purpose of this resolution is to authorize staff to apply for a non-matching grant to the Florida Division of Historical Resources. in the amount of $15,000. The purpose of the grant, if we're successful in obtaining it, will be to develop an archaeological GIS predictive model that will help us better implement our policies regarding protection of archaeological resources. This has been deemed as reviewed by our Heritage Preservation Board during several discussion items as a priority that they would like to see us get accomplished, and so this is a way to do it without expending any city funds. So hopefully we'll be successful and you'll approve us to go forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Vinson?
Just a brief question, Mayor.
Commissioner Tarpon?
Ms. Vinson, you just said it that it's not going to cost us any money, but the non-matching grant just means that we're getting $15,000. We don't have to match the 15.
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yep.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next, we go to miscellaneous items. 14 is Sponge Docks Project Review. You want to start this off?
As you know, we've already begun the process of working on a new plan for the sponge docks and had very productive meetings. And of course, we have said before, the first elements is dealing with the lighting, because that's the one we have time sensitive, but we will continue on with the other elements, which could include some elements of this plan. Obviously, the crux of the issue tonight is the ability on the permit of the docks, and we're gonna get to that pretty soon. But first, I want Mr. Chapman to get up and just give a brief overview. You've got a rather thick book outlining the whole history of the project. Believe me, it's going to be a real short summary of this. For some questions, there's also some backup material on some questions about the comprehensive plan that Ms. Vincent has answered. I believe she's self-explanatory in her memos on our feelings of it meeting the comp plan. Obviously, the comp plan is something meant for interpretation, so you know, there are different interpretations, but you have ours in there. If you have questions there, she'll answer after. But I'll have Rodney just give us a short preview of where we began and where we are, and then get into the crux of the issue, the permitting of the docks.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Chief Cochin, Rodney Chapman, Principal Planner, City of Tarpon Springs. As the City Manager said, I was asked to put together a timeline of milestones associated with the project, and you have had that in your possession for quite a while. It's hard for me to believe, but we started over 4 years ago on this initiative, and I'm going to briefly highlight a few of the milestones that were critical to the evolution of the improvement project. The concept began discussions at several public meetings back in May of 2010, and eventually led to the culmination of the commission authorizing staff to seek grant funding for the project. And Exhibit D of your backup includes a copy of Resolution 2010-24, which was unanimously passed by the commission on June 1st. This was, again, to seek grant funding for that boardwalk concept, and it was through the MPO and FDOT. In October of that same year, the MPO placed the Riverwalk project concept on the priority list for the 2010 year, and we authorized survey work shortly thereafter for that project. In August of 11, the commission then awarded conceptual design services for the improvement project to the team of Hoffman Architects and URS. The bulk of the fee for the conceptual design work was for project management, community involvement, programming, and conceptual design. Other tasks included creation of a project website as well as a three-dimensional animation of the desired concept. We then went on to holding several workshops, presentations, open houses, and we held those with all stakeholders, including the boaters, merchants, property owners, and other stakeholders and interested citizens, and that happened through November of 2011 through February of 2013. We even placed an email link through this project website that allowed the public to comment anonymously on the evolution of the project. The Commission again approved the conceptual plan for the project in February of 2013 and awarded the design, engineering, and permitting phase of the project again to Hoffman Architects and URS in May of 2013. The project then moved into the permitting phase, and that was in the late summer and fall of 2013, which included several steps, including things such as seagrass assessments, site meetings with the Water Management District staff, water sample collection and testing, and the consultants also responded to requests for additional information. In December of 2013, the Commission was presented the current status of the plans, and they approved the 90% submittal and authorized the bidding of the project. Permitting continued, and staff sought letters of concurrence for setback waivers and right of entry agreements to allow the Riverwalk to be constructed at the extended property line, which essentially would create a smooth transition between existing dockage and the city's new boardwalk. We were able to get signed agreements from Mr. Leventis, who owns property at 776 Zodecanis Boulevard. He was eager to see the project begin because he was hoping to be able to replace his 15-year-old dock at the same time the city was doing its work. The team also reached out to other adjacent property owners for their support, and we were prepared to modify the design of the boardwalk if the other adjacent owners did not support that boardwalk and floating dock configuration. As we moved a few months forward, in April of 2014, the Commission then terminated the project, and the joint application for the permit through the jurisdictional agencies was withdrawn shortly thereafter. That concludes what I have for City Manager.
And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Hoffman and the team for URS to discuss the permitting of the dock.
Good evening. I'm Ed Hoffman, Hoffman Architects, 29 West Orange Street, Tarpon Springs. Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commission and Chief, for letting us speak. I'm not used to this kind of a presentation, so I might be stumbling along here. It's not the one that we typically make, being in defense mode now that more or less the prosecution is rest, and it's our turn to make some comments. It's a little with frustration and sadness that I'm having to even be here. The first thing I want to talk about is the sadness that, from my view, the residents, the merchants, and the entire city is missing out on a pretty, what I think is a wonderful opportunity to reap some great benefits. When the project was started so long ago, and as Mr. Chapman had said, back in 2011, things were kind of quiet on the docks, and there was some quite a bit of talk about need for significant change, and that began the environment that we were working in. The second was that I'm also equally kind of saddened and frustrated by the unnecessary anger that's been expressed in this room that, quite honestly, I just don't understand it at all. I don't understand where it's coming from or why. I'm not sure that why the other professionals that are involved in this would not simply come to our office. If Mr. Vaticos was, so concerned that, or Ms. Coburn, why not just come to our office and say, Ed, I think you got a problem here with this federal channel or whatever it is, and that's going to be a hurdle for you, or whatever. Just talk to us in a professional manner as opposed to bringing it to a public forum that, now we're in this crazy debate, which doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not a very smooth way to run government, certainly. So that's real sadness, and then the third thing is that I'm a little frustrated, quite honestly, that the position that the Commission took at the last meeting to basically abandon some key pieces of the project, as opposed to simply saying, "Oh, we have some new wild information that seems really, if it's accurate, is going to be really damaging to this whole project or to the boardwalk or to this federal channel or whatever. We have this information coming to us, and why we would just cancel it as opposed to saying, let's we've gone all this way. Why don't we just put a hold on the project until we can determine truth from fiction, so we can understand why our consultants are doing what they did. And anyway, where we are is where we are, but that's a little bit disappointing. In fact, it's quite disappointing, because we were almost there. You know, we had that next step was that you still had a step that we had talked about at the last time you gave unanimous approval to our construction drawings. There was still that step of when we had the bids that you were going to be able to say, oh, we don't like that, take it out, or we're over budget, so let's cut this out, let's cut that out, or whatever. There was still flexibility of what you chose to do or not to do. So it seems like we've kind of jumped the gun on that, and I'm sorry we don't have a chance to look at those numbers, to see what these pieces of the puzzle are about, and to have more public comment from others that maybe think there's some viable pieces. I want to go back to what I feel is really was our mission, what you actually hired us to do. And that mission was to bring really a new vision to the docks. In fact, it was called that, Envision the Docks. It wasn't about, we need the trash cans painted, we need some new benches, we need some new bushes or some flowers. That was not what you contracted us to do and paid us all this money for. You contracted us to create a new vision for the docks, to come up with ideas vetted and brought through the public in a series of workshops and with as much public input as possible, and then to bring that back to you for the city to vote on, which you did over and over. So that's, again, the big vision was what we were tasked to do. And to do a big vision, it takes quite honestly, some big ideas. Some ideas that were maybe different. What are some potential big ideas that we could do? You know, closing the street, creating a great pedestrian plaza. How do we make the docks reinvigorated as a destination that everybody could come and spend time here, not worrying about cars or whatever? Well, in as we got down the road, third workshop, that went away. So that's all right. That was part of the public process. We eliminated that. But when you do that, you're asking, and I want to remind everybody, the theme of what we're doing is that we were saying, how can we do these great things? How can we envision these great things? We were totally optimistic. We weren't saying, why? And we'd use some, we play the devil's advocate on everything, what if, what if, what if. But that's not our focus. Our focus was being positive about how can we accomplish these things that the City Commission has approved and that the city residents would like to have. So, that positive thing is where, and that gets into this permitting issue as well. By the way, I'm going to have, I should have talked a little bit about where I'm going with all this, our format, but at some point I'll be bringing Mr. Dennis Syria from URS up to talk more about the technicalities and their procedure and their process for permitting. As we were getting that public input, a big feature that you all know that came to the the podium. I shouldn't call this a pulpit as I'm not preaching. But there was a lot of discussion about the working waterfront. You've heard that term over and over and over, and that's accurate. We agreed with that. How you mix the working waterfront with the other issues of what is becoming the working waterfront, and that's to tell the story. Mr. Balearis spoke very eloquently about we need to tell the story. That's what we're about. And we've talked about it. This is not Disney. This is not Dunedin. It's not anywhere else. It's Tarpon Springs. And what's our unique story? Tell the story. And the story is about the sponge. Well, I totally concur with that. And so a lot of what we were doing was to try to draw a balance between what we need as tourists and to attract tourists and make them comfortable, want them to stay, want them to spend money. To balance that with the authenticity, which is part of why they come. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that. And part of that, though, the working waterfront, the new paradigm is that we don't have 100 boats out there parked on the, we don't have, just truckloads of sponges around in a big auction. We don't have the mass thing that we did back in the, the 20s and the 30s. So part of now what the working waterfront to me means is that is part of telling the story of what the working waterfront is now, but what it has been in the past. So it's, and to be able to create a venue and the architecture to reinforce that was very, to me, very, very important. I'm going to comment on a few things that, that have been talked about with our project, not necessarily just about the federal channel, which we'll address more specifically later, but I was disappointed that the Historical Society, let me see if I can make this work. B for black. And my, oops, my clicker was here. Oh, hiding, thank you. As we look, this is the, of course, the docks, and our discussion is primarily focused in this area, the public part of the dock. We'll also be talking about up at the Dolphin up here with the Two Georges Moor and our Hope Street floating dock that was up there. We'll be getting to those in a moment, but some of the discussion in a letter sent to the Army Corps and to you, I believe, from the Historical Society was about, it's got, there was such a huge focus on working waterfront, and these things should not be there because they were not part of the working waterfront, and blah, blah, is a negative, very negative thing, as opposed to, well, some of the things we do like is this and that, but it was very negative, and some of that is okay if there's maybe, in my view, more of an honest thing of saying, well, I think it's hokey. I think it's stupid. I think it looks, I just don't like that color or whatever. But to use that thing about the working waterfront is a little bit distressing, because when you say if it's not part of the working waterfront, it shouldn't be there, well, then that wonderful museum boat we have, sponge boat there, which is extremely authentic, should not be there. It's not part of the working waterfront. It's telling the story of the water of the sponge boats that were there. It's not a working. So in that definition, it shouldn't be there. The statue shouldn't be there. It's not doing any work. It's totally stiff. It's blocking part of the promenade there. Should that be there? Well, it's not part of the working waterfront. The benches, the trees, the landscaping, all of those are obstacles to the working waterfront. And so, anyway, this, trying to arrive at a line, a balance between what is there, what should be there, and what is not, what is telling the story. So that's part of, again, where we're coming from, is that the boat tells a story, the sculpture tells a story, and the things that we were trying to add, this little, the seat riser grouping there for gatherings as a focal point, was trying to tell the story. Another one was was that, we shouldn't have a sail on this thing, because sail is part of overall Florida, and is not specific, it's not part of the sponge docks. Well, I know some other people have said that they're rolling over in their grave about this. I know my dad is. But, the sponge boat was a sailboat. It was all about sail until the 20s when guys like Nick Toth's dad put for the first diesel engine on them in the 20s. And so there's a reason they all have these masts. By the way, these are hook boats, which we also haven't gone into the history of the Afro-American, contribution to the sponge industry. Earlier, this Governor Stone, part of one of the first boats that was still here in Tarpon, I got to sail on it. But all these boats have masts for a reason. They all had sails on them. I'll move on. But the wayfinding markers, that they're not appropriate because they're not part of the docks. Well, they were what led their rangefinder markers. That there was one out on the end of Bayshore Drive. There was one on the end of North Florida Avenue in the water. These were the key elements that brought the sponge boat crews home safely. And so that seemed to be a reasonable thing, but that it seems inappropriate is a bit odd. The things that we've tried to do is to, again, create a focal point where people can learn about the history. They can be taught about the history in a shaded area where they want to be. Adding a real dock back into the docks seems to be a very, very, in my view, something, by the way, it was number 2 on the list of priorities in terms of on the workshop list of things that they liked. They loved the Riverwalk part of it next, that only followed behind the main plaza. Adding, again, that's, to us, that's a historical element of the puzzle. It also, that dock added another 8 feet of working space by 500 feet long. It only projected out, that moved the pier out 6 feet, but it's actually an 8-foot working surface now that wasn't there or isn't there currently. This was not only working for the sponge boat cruise, but as a promenade as well. The center section was going to have this drawing was had this center section here that we were doing for Greek dancings and this little area there to create a focal point. Well, Swiftmud said, no, you need to have that, and you couldn't do it in any material other than the wood. So the heavy timber planking was what we were replacing there, and which actually brought it back further closer to the street with the heavy planking, which actually was a great thing. Again, it reinforced the history of the area in our view. It also turned the seawall the seawall that's elevated above the promenade there. It turned it into a 2-sided bench. Again, and I'm giving you all this as reasons, rationale for why we were doing what we did, why we wanted to do it, and why everyone seemed to agree with it, which we tend to have forgotten recently. We were taking away, this thing also, as we look at the docks there, this walkway was going to start back here. Everybody's familiar with the main bulkhead. It was going to start here, go out 8 feet. That moved this thing out, these pilings here, out just over 6 feet. It also, one of our, of all the discussions we have, one of them was with a sponge boat operator that says he would love to have a wood dock there that he could work on, and it would make it so much easier instead of them having to climb and step here and then up over here and then down here where people are walking. To have a wood walk there that's all flush would be a great benefit. That was his view. So again, it's not like we just totally made up all of this stuff. there was input from some boaters. The curbs in the center section of the project, we were eliminating, raising so that we could get rid of some of the curbs, and that would make it more handicapped accessible. It also made it flow across much better from the sponge exchange into the central area, and made a real, I thought it would make a great spot for the night on the islands, and that just to flow more easily. Be more of a pedestrian-friendly type of a thing. We added brick. We were doing all that in brick to define the motorway, but there's also a historical element. Tarpon Springs has brick. That original Dodecanese was brick. Adding that back in, you would think people would be happy about that. Some people complain, oh, people are going to trip, and high heels are going to get caught in it, and blah, blah, blah. Well, nobody's talking about removing the brick on Tarpon Avenue down to Spring Bayou, because, here are all these people walking down there in the Epiphany finest dress, and nobody's, says they have a major problem with that. So the things that we're doing are not unreasonable. Now I'm going to start talking about the dock and the dock focus. And again, I'm going to have Dennis come up and give you some more of the technical aspects. But again, we're in this mode of can-do mode. What can we do? What can we get done? What can we accomplish? And so let's reach. We're not reaching for the stars. We're reaching for reality, what we perceive as reality. First of all, part of the thing, though, timing. The reason for the permitting being at the end and pushing the permit was because the whole project was moving forward, and we were trying to get the project done during the summer months, the off-season months. And the dock and the dock permitting is one thing that we can do almost later. The dock work would not be nearly as disruptive to the merchants and the traffic as would be the street and the street improvements in Athens and all. So that was the reason that was put, I won't say the back burner, but that was put further back. We were not even expecting the Hope dock, the one Ms. Vatty-Kiotis is so excited about, or brought this on, was not even part of, that was put in the documents as a placeholder, so that we always knew that we're going to have to come back and have that reviewed by both of the owners on either side. Mr. LaVenta was fine, and I'll talk more about that momentarily. But one of the first things I did, of all the workshops that we had, all the meetings that we've had, we also had meetings, of course, as you know, with the commissioners that were sitting at the time, Mr. Alahousas and all. And but one of those early ones meeting was with, by the way, this is the boardwalk, the Riverwalk Promenade, the wood part at Georgetown. I was there last weekend for Janie's graduation, but this is a walk similar to what we were suggesting. There's still the paved area, which is similar to what we're doing, but they have this walk that is extremely popular. People just love to come down there and be next to the water. Ours would have the bump between that you could sit on both sides. Just as a note, that was they were having flooding last time they put up these floodgates, which is an interesting idea for the docks at some point with an unlimited budget. The floodgates, by the way, are in the up position. They come up out of the ground and protect the businesses there. I met with Joy Sackelson and her mother, Sophie Georgiou, longtime family friends. They were some of the stakeholders that were important. I felt this is the dolphin. I showed them two sketches, conceptual sketches about the transient floating dock, something that was very popular in our workshops. This was also presented at all workshops and to the commission here. There were two layouts, this scheme and this scheme. there was discussion about the two. We were trying to get as many boat slips as possible. Therefore, we were, how can we do that? There was a comment that, well, you're really better off with this one because these recreational boaters can get in and out of here a little easier. This guy's a professional guy. He can deal with it better than the tourist fellas. And so this might even work out better than this one. But anyway, we had those two as just conceptual ideas. They were put in as a placeholder in the original permit with the Army Corps. When Mr. Chapman met with Mr. Vaticiotis, being the owner's rep of the Dolphin there, of the two Georges, they had from what I understand, they had a conversation. You can ask him more if you'd like, but they had a conversation that said, we have a problem with this. So this is the drawing that Mr. Chapman emailed over to us. We sent that right away to URS to get that to update our permitting. He did not, from what I understand, he did not have an issue at all. It was just once we took that away that we were all fine. The city did not say, hey, wait a minute, we're losing spaces. We need to, try to twist his arm or give him some more information. Nope, it was just very simple. They don't want it, take it away. And that's been a big theme, actually, from the whole staff and from the city's position, really minimizing the fight. And just, if people don't want it, don't do it, So what can we do? What is positive? And so okay, well, here's a floating dock that we're going to leave for along with this boardwalk. The reason Sophie, Georgiou, and Joy just, to me, they loved the plan. And they said they were just so excited that you could come down from the sponge docks, you could walk on Mr. LaVentas' waterfront here, you could walk around and come right onto their dock. So you could, get a boat ride here, you could go to the bathroom, or you could go over to their shop, their gift shop. It just seemed like a real win-win situation. And so, okay, so we took that away, and then we continued on with the permitting. Well, apparently, at some point, almost immediately after this, there was that letter that you all first received, basically accusing us of negligence and blah, 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 and that could never get permitted, blah, blah, blah. Again, the dock process, permitting process, is a process. It's like site plan approval process. It's not like you answer all the questions and then you go get your permit. You come and you start getting public discussion and you have back and forth and you negotiate and this was part of our negotiations. Yeah, eliminate all that stuff that Ms. Viaticiotis did not want. So we thought we had done that. So getting attacked was quite a surprise. A comment then as we, whoops. I know that Captain O'Keefe had come in and made quite an eloquent reading of his letter about how we're into this, doom and gloom. He had talked about the 3 shrimp boats being 20 feet, particularly we're talking about in the narrow channel in front of the boardwalk, shifting gears from Hope Street to the Riverwalk, that creating this additional space was going to create this huge hazard. He said that the 3 shrimp boats, 20-foot shrimp boats, the 2 13-foot sponge boats, was going to be a huge problem if we take away another 6 feet. The current space is 165 feet dock to dock now. That's our best estimate, leaving us with 79 feet. You take away not a 10-foot dock that he talked about, but more or less a 6-foot dock, is 6 foot 4 inches. It gives us more than 72 feet free. There's 72 feet from this. This is his prime example, which is accurate, that occasionally you get 3 shrimp boats and you have 2 sponge boats. You have the distance from here to here at 72 feet. I've talked to a number of boaters, one particularly a professional captain, and the idea that you end up with 72 feet there is huge, and the reason that it did not hit any problems before this was that it's not a problem. I mean, many of you have been in boats on this. I know I have, and there's even in this worst case scenario, there's not an issue in terms of being able to get a boat across. And so it raises a question that, his term was to do that dock would be reckless and unconscionable, was his letter, situation. Well, if that's true, if this boat isn't 20 feet but it's 26 feet, we're now in a reckless situation. It's just not true. I mean, he said you have to back out, you can't back out, you can't use the turning basin, you can't get access to the turning. It's all this doom and gloom, which was very frustrating and just simply not accurate. Again, I appreciate y'all indulging me for this. But this has been important. More recently, wow, you get a 70% discount here if you want. The latest, you all just received something the other day or yesterday, I think we had about 24 hours to notice it from another consultant that has been sent over about we couldn't get they weren't going to be able to get a permit. Something I should mention is that as architects, we're constantly talking to different building officials, and many times the same department will have 2 building officials which will have different opinions. That is typical, and that's typical with the process of getting a building permit. And there's 2 always qualified people that have 2 objecting opinions. When somebody makes a comment with one thing, with the city is positive and it's all pro, and how can we get this 6-foot extension put into the river? How can we do that? That gets one answer from them. To have somebody come in and say to actually a different group and put a camera in your face and the reporters are there and all blah 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 blah, start screaming and yelling, you might get a different answer. So anyway, I think that the Army Corps and Dennis will elaborate on that, had approved what we were doing. They thought it was a reasonable thing to do, and they did not have an objection to it. And regardless of what the mystery person, I don't know who it is, in Jacksonville said. I want to do the next. Uh-oh. Does anybody know how to get, this isn't my computer, by the way. Maybe I can just click out of it? There's an arrow. Okay, maybe we're back in business. Again, this is the distance. This is the worst case scenario. Here we still have 72 feet from the second sponge boat to the shrimp boat there. That's still plenty of room to work. It's a reasonable thing to do. You all thought it was reasonable when we were looking at all the drawings. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about our fees. I've heard a lot of comments about that we were huge fees. They paid us all this money and we've screwed all this up, blah, 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 blah. I just want you to know that that our original fee request was cut substantially by the city staff, city manager. It wasn't cut. What we had requested versus what they would approve were considerably different. We acquiesced and did it so it wasn't like your staff is spending money willy-nilly. They pulled us back considerably. As Mr. Chapman said, there were really two phases. There was a $114,000 phase, and then later for the preliminary work, much of it being educational, educating the public. The other is the construction drawings of $231. So this just real quickly is just so you don't know that unfortunately Hoffman Architects did not make out real big on this first half, and that this is our piece here. This was their piece for the work that we did. We did not ask for any additional services when we made all of those changes, closing the road or putting the road back through there one lane, then putting it back through as two lane. We did not, Athens came up in Athens Street was added to the project. We did not get additional fees for that. And the bottom line is that, according to my CFO, Barbara, we were just in the hole just over $10,000 before we started all of this defense mode. Again, and the piece that actually happens though with the Riverwalk, this was our preliminary design fees. These are the different pieces, and anybody can see. I'll be happy to share this. It's all part of the record. The different pieces of the puzzle, but you can see the animation, the website animation, and all the creative imaging. All those kind of things were part of it. Our design piece was smaller, getting ready for the workshops, those things. It's all there, but. And then the construction drawings, you see our piece of it that we were doing, producing our structural engineer and URS. So, but then the thing that's, when you look at the overall parts of the fees, then you look at what is actually regarding the floating dock at $6,000, $6,800, and the Riverwalk, $10,000. That was our piece of what actually pertains. So it's not like there's this huge big piece of money that is in the balance based on this permit from design fees. And with that, I'm going to bring Dennis up to talk more specifically about the permit and the federal channel and those issues that have come up. Dennis Syria is with URS. He's, well, he'll give you his credentials, but we selected them because they've worked with us. URS has worked very successfully with the city in the past, and they seem to me to have a tremendous amount of expertise for doing the civil work, the landscaping work, a lot of the marine permitting work. And so I'll let Dennis talk. This is your clicker.
Great. I want to thank the City Commission for allowing me to come up here and speak on behalf of the services that we performed on this project. Little introduction. My name is Dennis Syria. I'm the manager of the Civil Engineering Department, URS Tampa. I've been at URS for 25 years, and I'm the engineer of record for the permitting of this phase of the project. According to ENR's top 500 design firms, URS were ranked number 3 in the nation for marine and ports facility, number 1 in environmental science, number 1 in project management, construction management, number 5 in environmental management. So we bring to the table a very strong team. We have over 400 people in our Tampa office, over 1,000 people in the state of Florida, and over 60,000 worldwide. Our Tampa office has a pretty extensive experience in ports and harbors. We specialize in a lot of the Navy work. Nearly all of this work was done primarily out of Tampa. The head of our department for ports and harbors, his name is Dr. Bill Fahring. He's been with us for 27 years. The 10 years previous to that, he was the Environmental Affairs Director for the Tampa Port Authority. He was responsible for the Federal Channel realignment and portions of the Federal Channel that were abandoned to make way for the Convention Center and Harbor Island in Tampa. And he brings to the team a very knowledgeable, experienced manager who I've consulted on a number of these issues. I've worked on several of these projects right now on the Tampa Riverwalk. URS is completing our 4th segment of the design. I'm the engineer of record for the portion known as the Doyle-Carlton segment. It's a 2,000-foot segment on the east bank of the Hillsborough River. I was the engineer of record for the Mosaic Big Bend Terminal in Gibsonton. And the last one on the list, Polk County Parks. We've been working for Polk County Parks since 1996. I've worked on projects that involved canoe launches, tedder boat ramp systems, also push-in-place ramps for boat ramps. So I'm very familiar with both large and the small project. Projects like this that made URS desirable on the Hoffman team, and I think we had a large part of the success for winning this project, and we bring a lot of horsepower to the project. We're a very respected firm, and we're a very careful firm in how we approach our designs. I'd like to go over a little flow chart. This is a flow chart that kind of illustrates the 2 major components of permitting on this project. We started off the project over 3 years ago. I spoke to Ted Murray. He was a URS environmental scientist at the time, and he was a former environmental director for DEP. He handled submerged land leases for the Tampa office of DEP. He told me point blank, when we get into this, you're going to open Pandora's box potentially. No matter what you do for research-wise, no matter what you come to a conclusion, the only way you're going to be able to figure out what the city's waterfront rights and entitlements are is to make an application through the agencies and see what falls out. But the process starts with agency pre-application meetings. We met with DEP thinking they were going to be the permitting entity, but because there was an upland component, they deferred to SwiftMud. So SwiftMud took over from DEP, and that's a very common situation. They both do joint reviews, but in this case, they deemed SwiftMud as being the agency to review it. The Corps, on the other hand, doesn't allow pre-application conference. You can research their files, but they're not going to give you a written opinion of whether a project is permittable or unpermittable. That's just not what they do. The first step is we prepare 60% plans for agency submittal. 60% plans have the minimum amount of information that they need to determine that their rules and regs are being applied to, and it prevents us from getting ahead of the game. If we had a component in there that needed to be adjusted, we haven't went to 100% plans, and we don't have to go backwards and do a lot of rework. So submittals were made to the Army Corps of Engineers in Tampa. Tampa is the regulatory office for the federal channels in this district. And we also made a submittal to SwiftMud. After they reviewed, they issue a request for additional information. The Corps, they had 3 comments on their review. 1, show the mooring locations for the transient floating dock. Tell us the construction techniques for building this boardwalk. What type of crane? Are you building it on water? And provide notes for manatee protection. There was not a single navigational channel comment raised. We resubmitted, and on February 13th, we received an email. It was sent to Joe. Letter of permission, coordination letter for the Tarpon Springs Sponge Dock Improvement Project is attached. A hard copy will be sent upon request. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns. We satisfied the Corps. They issued a completeness letter saying, we're satisfied that this is approvable. We sent it back. They got the letter of permission, and with that, they forwarded it to a myriad of other agencies, Fish and Wildlife Service, National Marine Fisheries, EPA, the U.S. Coast Guard. U.S. Coast Guard came back with a 1-sentence email. We have no objection to this project. The last one is the adjacent property owners. All adjacent property owners are copied on this permit application, basically saying the Corps is intending to issue a permit. Do you have any concerns? So all of Ed's work with the workshops and the public outreach, we hope to avoid that wild card. All the other agencies, we're pretty confident we can address their comments. So the adjacent property owners, we were thinking that all of this upfront meeting and coordination with them would minimize the the comments or eliminate them to none. Had the Corps not received any letters from any citizens or adjacent property owners, we would have responded to the other agencies, virtue of another request for additional information. We would have responded, and the Corps would have approved the project. We were on the 5-yard line, ready to punch it in, and we would put the project on hold. This does not look unpermittable. We were right there. If we would got a comment on the first RAI that says, we have an issue with this federal channel, provide us more justification, give us a variance, we didn't receive it. Likewise, SwiftMud, we were on the path to get their approval. They publish a notice of agency action, gives the public an opportunity to comment on a 21-day public notice period. We would have got the SwiftMud permit. At that point, the city would have had approval, and the Pinellas County dock permit would have been pulled by the contractor. The Pinellas County, we saw no issues with Pinellas County having the Corps, having the city, having SwiftMud approval in hand. There's no way Pinellas County was going to deny you the right to use your own waterfront. But by virtue of this letter, the completeness letter, myself and all of the URS professionals working on this project, we're flabbergasted as to why somebody would deem this unpermittable. When we got a letter forwarded to us from the city outlining a citizen's complaint that we were negligent in respect to the federal channel, we placed a call to the engineer who reviewed the project out of the Tampa Regulatory Office. Their statement to us was, we know where our federal channel is. The federal channel limit line is so close to the seawall there that the formula to derive the 29-foot minimum setback is not applicable. They basically looked at the plan and said, that's what we're building. Does that look unreasonable? Does that look like we're blocking the channel? That boardwalk represents less than 4% of the open river channel there. 4%. Hardly a detriment to navigational channel according to the Corps. In fact, this drawing here just kind of reiterates what Ed had showed, that we reconfigured the dock, floating dock, and it's substantially reduced from the initial iteration. Design permitting is an iteration process. Plan refinement, compromise, negotiation. We made this change. The Corps obviously didn't have any problems with it since it was less impact than the original plan. Now you may ask, is this a special circumstance just because it's the Anclote River and the setback is waived? No, it's not. I mentioned that I'm the engineer of record for the next phase of the Tampa Riverwalk. We're adjoining to a wonderful park at the called the Tampa Waterworks Park, and they too have a transient component up on the top. And if you zoom in, eastern limit of the federal channel is shown on the top, 10-foot setback. You go back, this has got plenty of room. Those other lines represent the 29-foot setback, the 70-foot setback, and the 100-foot setback. So 2 examples on projects that I'm working on where the setback of minimum 29 feet does not apply. We have it in writing from a named source at the Corps on Corps letterhead. I think that is a little bit more substantive than hearsay third-party writing that somebody unnamed at the Corps says in Jacksonville this is unpermittable. The reason the Corps is so acceptable for this is public money is being spent. We're opening the waterfront up to the public. They serve the public. We're not asking for a super tanker to load petroleum or phosphate or anything that's really going to be an industrial purpose. We're maximizing the city's use of their own property. And this document is a screenshot from DEP's website, and it illustrates the easement that the city of Tarpon has obtained back in 1957 from the state of Florida. This easement I discussed with Dr. Faring is pretty common. It gives the city the control over the turning basin. Whatever you need to do in there to keep the turning basin and your marina active, you have the right to dredge, you have the right to enforce blockage, but it also has another easement on top of it, which is the easement given to the U.S. government to ultimately do the dredging material. That easement does not prevent the city from utilizing their property. In fact, the second page of the easement says, reserving, however, to the party of the first part, the city, its successor and assigns all such rights and privileges in said tract of land as may be used and enjoyed without interfering with or abridging the rights and easements hereby conveyed to the party of the second part. The Corps just needs permission to get in there to do the dredging activity. The second slide here is, we found this in the archives of Swiftmud. This is the original hand-drawn, very impressive easement for the turning basin that was submitted way back when in the 50s. The last one is really the same outline of the easement, just superimposed on a real estate parcel map from Pinellas County. But it's essentially the same thing. It's the exact easement just overlaid on a not-to-scale map that's intended to show parcelization. With that, I'd like to conclude that I think the city should move forward with this permitting process. At some point in your future, you're going to want to do something on the water. To sit on our hands and not do anything and discover what are your waterfront entitlements and rights. It's important to find that out. I think we've got pretty significantly along the permitting process to show it is permittable. It's just a function of how much do you want to build, and that's where this iteration and plan refinement comes from. But in conclusion, we took the same approach on this project as we do on every other project. We did the proper due diligence. We knew that there were issues in Pandora's box that we could potentially open, but we were confident that at the end of the day, we were going to get something approved. We did the proper due diligence. We used the proper standard of care that's used in the consulting industry, and we're prepared to finalize it and get those permits. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. I'm going to bring to a conclusion here, and thank you again for your patience. And again, this what seems to me as somewhat of a witch hunt has been very, very tiring and very, very stressful, and something I just do not understand. With the project, y'all had closed off the project, and why it's still going on just doesn't make sense to me. I think when people keep screaming, the sky is falling, we're in danger, and in danger of losing the channel and losing thousands of jobs, and the sponge boats are leaving and the shrimp boats are leaving and all that. It's easy to get caught up in the hysteria, but to me it's just really inappropriate, and I don't understand. I guess maybe I have to stay tuned, but I don't understand why all of this has been so negative. I feel a little bit like a guy in a football game, that they stop the football game in the last 10 minutes or 3 minutes of play, and they say, stop the game, you're going to lose the game. Coach, you're going to screw up, blah, 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 and the game's over, and let's go ahead and throw the coach, let's fire the coach and everything else before you let him finish the game. If we couldn't get a permit, we couldn't get a permit. That would prove it. There wouldn't be all this arguing about anything. It was just, so why we do all this before we get, we're in that last stage of getting the permit, it's something, again, I don't understand. I dreamed of people being able to stroll down the Riverwalk and learn about what's on the other side behind the stores. Learn about the waterfront, learn about the boats that were parked there. I'm real sad that that's dream's not going to happen. It doesn't appear to be. I dreamed of families being on this little seating riser. That would be the perfect spot for family portraits while they're in the shade, while they're also learning about the sponge industry and having somebody clip sponges and listening to Greek music or concert or whatever was going to happen there on a daily basis. But setting those dreams aside, I think the bottom line is that you tasked us to create a new vision for the docks. We did that. I think we did it very, very professionally. As Dennis says, we followed all the protocol that we thought was appropriate, still believe is appropriate. And I can tell you the city staff, having sat in many meetings with them, were constantly wanting to make this project an excellent, excellent project. And I believe they handled themselves in a very professional manner, as I believe we did. So with that, I'll, I guess, close. Maybe the defense rests, Your Honor. Maybe I'll need to speak some more, but that concludes basically our presentation. Thank you. By the way, none of that dock that you see there is there now. Everything on that 100 feet or 500 feet is 1992 or sooner. We were not replacing anything that was historic. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if, the Commission have any questions for, was it Mr. Sierra? Mr. Sierra or Mr. Hoffman, as we look at trying to move forward, Commissioner Banther?
Yes, my main question, and there's so much to say. Though, first off, I have stand up for Eddie Hoffman in the last meeting I was at, and I'll do it again this time. His record in the town, his commitment to this town, is without measure, and I think he was hired to do a job, and he did that well. The permitting aspect aside, with URS, which I will address here. So, and as I said before, if anybody's upset, be upset at us, not at Mr. Hoffman. He worked at our disposal, and I truly think the breakdown and the dysfunction was in City Hall, and not with Mr. Hoffman. Sir, you said that the setback was not applicable for this river, for the Anklet River. You had a letter. You had a letter for that.
No, we have the the document that we have is the letter of permission. We contacted the Corps and spoke to them, and they said that because of the proximity of the federal channel to the seawall, that that formula, which was, I believe it was twice the depth of the river plus.
I understand the formula, yes.
Yeah. It does not apply to this, and they based it on comparable use east and west of our improvements. They felt that this was not extending further out into the channel than any other existing adjacent properties.
Well, you don't have that. I thought maybe I just misheard. I thought you said you had a letter stating that.
No.
You don't. Mark, was this known to you or anybody in City Hall? Was this in our backup anywhere? As far as a setback not being applicable?
I don't believe so.
Because it doesn't make sense to me, and forgive me, I'm not a boater, I'm not an engineer by any means, but from a letter from the Corps, which is in our backup available to all of us, on March 27th, a letter to the head of Development Services, it specifically asks him on point 3 that due to the proximity of the project to the federal channel, please provide the XY coordinates. So if that setback wasn't even applicable, why would they ask that question? And this is
because the comment was raised that the improvements would block the federal channel, so the Corps has to respond to those comments, and everything that they have is based on state plane coordinates. What we gave them was just a dimensional drawing, so they're going to plop those coordinates into their GIS system and then make a further determination. They only asked that question at the second RAI after they received a letter saying that they believe the navigational challenge was being compromised.
So they weren't. They saw no problem with the federal channel. They were just asking this as a follow up. You're saying.
That's my presumption. We were stopped and we basically withdrew the permit before we responded to that comment.
It just doesn't make sense to me why they would even bother with that, or they would define that in there. If the setback does not apply, and I'm just flabbergasted if that's true, how that's not in our backup anywhere. How me being on this board for over 1 year, I've never heard a word about that, and I suppose that goes to why there's some personnel changes, So that's kind of my interest. I would love, though I want to close this out tonight and move forward with what we all agreed upon. With the lighting and the benches and put this to bed, but at the same time, if that could be provided, I would love to see that, because that's kind of the crux, and it just doesn't make sense to me when I've talked to city staff, when I've talked to the city manager, when I've talked to residents, all of our backup, almost 600 pages. Nowhere does it talk about how the setback's not applicable. So for me to believe that, which would not change some of this and what's going to happen, but in my view, change some thoughts I have, I would like to see that. Because though it almost seems to me that there's difference of opinions here inside the Army Corps of Engineers. I know you did reference that to an extent, or I guess Mr. Hoffman may have, where if you ask different people different things in this kind of department, you might get some different answers. But with a letter from Woods Consulting, Costa Vaticiotis, he's the one person I will defend. He's not some rebel rouser or just throwing stuff out there. He has extensive experience with the city, extensive experience with the Anclo River. The fact that setback is not applicable and all this research has ever brought up is just astonishing to me. So I'm at a loss for words. So.
Well, let me just quote what Dr. Faring told me. He, being the director for the Tampa Port Authority, a lot of those channels were built way before a lot of these ships got very wide. There are numerous cases in the Tampa Port Authority where boats and structures are in the federal channel. And it's recognized by the Corps that conditions change. And I'll certainly ask the reviewer to give me something in writing. I mean, her name is Caitlin Hoke. We've coordinated with her. I just inquired, and she said that the basis of that was because the federal channel is so close to the edge that it has to be examined on a different basis, because you make the formula, it goes into land. So I'll pursue getting something in writing from the Corps.
Okay, all right. I might have some more comments later, but that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to echo some of the comments Commissioner Banther made in regards to Mr. Hoffman. It is unfortunate how negative everything became with this project, and I think throughout the process, Mr. Hoffman has attempted to stay positive, and it's unfortunate that it turned into this negative thing that we're dealing with right now. I also had a question in regards to the March 27th letter from the Army Corps of Engineers. You mentioned a letter, and it might be in here. I know we've got about 600 or 700 pages here, but you mentioned a letter, some kind of correspondence that essentially said things seem to be okay from the Army Corps. Is that correct?
Well, we received a letter of permission basically saying we had satisfied all of their comments satisfactorily, and they were now sending it out to the other agencies. So they essentially deemed the application as complete. It's known as a completeness letter or a letter of permission.
What's the date of that letter? You know?
That is February 13th.
So the March 27th letter is after that, and it's in response to comments from the State Historic Preservation Officer, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the U.S. Coast Guard, and members of the general public. I may have some additional questions. I'm still trying to comprehend all of the information because there's been a lot of information given out just now. I may have some additional questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Tarpon?
Thank you. I don't have any questions for Mr. Hoffman or URS. I will keep my comments tonight brief, and that's solely because of the action that was taken today by the city manager in regard to accountability. I will say that I have absolutely no desire to revisit the permitting of this proposed project. My main objective is to move forward in a manner that I think is productive, and I think that in past commission meetings we've talked about and developed a plan to do so. However, this was an item that was slated for the agenda for Mr. Hoffman to give an opportunity to speak, as well as URS. As I look back and I think about this process over the years and the steps that were taken, it's without a doubt in my mind that there was a lot of public input, and there were concessions that were made when the public was notified or something was identified in the public's mind that was problematic. So I will say that without a shadow of a doubt. But I will also say that early on in the process, this commission, or the commission at the time, and there's three of us still up here, made it very well known that we did not want to spend the money that we had available, which was identified as not a whole lot of money in the sum of $1.2 million, $1.3 million. We did not want to spend half or all of that money on a multi-phase project and end up with relatively no bricks and mortar and nothing to see other than design and engineering plans. So for me, that worst fear is realized. And that's something that is extremely troubling to me, and I feel like if the project would have continued to move forward, that's more so of what you would have seen. So I'm thankful that the project was stopped when it was. I am grateful to the citizens who were persistent, as I said at the last meeting, in their mission to make more information available, regardless of at what point or what inning or what yard line we were at. So I'm grateful to you all, and I thank you for that. To me, it is undeniable that regardless of whether the project was permittable, which for the record I am of the belief that it was not, it is undeniable to me that narrowing the channel is not good for the workability and the functionality of the working port. As an example, I was with a gentleman today, this is out of pure coincidence, who is a shrimper, and he's in the business, and he owns boats, doesn't live here, wants to live here, and he was talking to me today about the fuel that he just put in one of his boats in the sum of $76,000, and the $30,000 that one of the crew members on the ship made, and the amount of what the cost was, the retail value of the shrimp that was offloaded on the boat, and the circular economics that when the captain and the mates get off the boat, where they spend their money in town and how they spend their money in town. And to me, narrowing the channel, regardless of whether it's 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet, is unacceptable. And I'm thankful and I'm glad that that was brought to our attention in terms of what it does for the working port, and I'm glad that that was stopped. When we look at this project and we look at other projects, let's say Whitcomb Bayou, for example, we hear a lot of times that, oh, the public's wrong. The public doesn't necessarily know what they're talking about. Well, the public can't always be wrong, okay? And that's something that's very important to me that we recognize. Like I said, moving forward, it's important to me that we get back on the right track for doing something for the sponge docks. I think we're capable of doing that. I think the city manager has identified things that will make the town and the sponge docks a better place and more vibrant and something that we can all be proud of. And I would just, in closing, I would like to thank him for listening to his commissioners, the majority of them, and taking the necessary steps to do what was undeniably right for the town in making the personnel change. And I know that's not something that is ever easy for a city manager to do. He did not want to do it, but he listened to his commissioners and he knew that it was something that he had to do. Thank you.
Mr. Stever.
I want to thank Mr. Hoffman for all of your work and your years of work. I was not commissioner at the time that the project, 90% project, was approved, but I was involved in this process from the beginning as a business owner. I think maybe there's a lesson to be learned. Not everyone who spoke up at the end after the project was approved was involved from the beginning, and maybe we need to learn a lesson that we do need to be involved when it matters to our city and to our businesses and to our residents. So that's something that I just wanted to mention. And actually, I wouldn't mind knowing whether this is permittable or not, and whether this permitting would have been approved, just for our own knowledge. I don't know if there would be additional expense to this, but there have been a lot of allegations, and there have been a lot of letters, and we have 600 pages of backup material here, but I think that I would like to know the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. As I look to go to public comment, I know that there are some people that would maybe like to make some type of statement. I see some already nodding their head, but I'm going to ask that you do me one favor. You have 4 minutes. Some of it we've heard before. Take your 4 minutes, please. Just don't get into, I'm trying to stop you and the rest. And then what I probably would do, because this is a special meeting in a sense of the city trying to get to a point of some of the answers. If there are some additional questions to maybe ask if the engineer of record, or Mr. Hoffman, might respond to that.
Mayor, real quick, I'm sorry. I just meant to add in my comments that while I do want to see that letter from URS, I do not wish to continue any type of mock permitting or anything, just for the record.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Coburn.
Good evening. Mary Coburn, 15 East Orange Street, Tarpon Springs. Mayor Archie, Commissioners, Mr. LaCouris, good evening to you. It's been a long night. I guess it was yesterday I sent you the Woods Consulting document, the opinion letter. Ms. Siebert wants to know if it's permittable. It's not permittable. That's what this document tells you. And if you review it carefully and also review the regulations that were given to you from December of 2013, those apply to this channel. This is part of the federal channel. It's not permittable. Ms. Skapik works almost entirely in Pinellas County. I mean, she's got a vast experience. These are all her projects. She works for the city of St. Pete, Indian Rocks, Clearwater, Madeira. She works very closely with St. Pete Beach. She's working on all those projects down there. She deals with the Army Corps of Engineers all the time. Caitlin Hoke is a brand new hire at the Army Corps of Engineers. She was hired in June. Very, very inexperienced. This was one of her first projects. Mr. O'Kane, who is her boss, has only been there 2 years. He's from a different part of the country and was unaware that where the federal channel was referenced the Anclote River. I spoke to him personally, and that was our conversation. If you review this record, you see her extensive experience and her credentials, which are very impressive. She states clearly in her opinion letter, and she tells you how she got there. She treated it like it was the city of Tarpon Springs who was her client. And all we gave her was the maps and the easements and the things that y'all have and that the Army Corps should have had. And she made the step-by-step process, and what she does is she looks for where she could put a dock if there was to be a dock, basically a feasibility study for where in this area you could put docks. And right when she gets to the point where the docks can't be built, and that's when she hit the federal channel. So once she got to that point, she contacted navigation with the Army Corps of Engineers in Jacksonville. He's been there 20 years, and there's just no way this dock would have been permitted. Absolutely no way. The setback does not allow it. This structure is grandfathered in. The actual concrete dock that we are talking about, that is grandfathered in. You can't do anything to it. You can only fix it, repair it, refurbish it, but you cannot extend it any more further towards the federal channel. There's absolutely no exception to that. Her opinion confirms the previously expressed opinion of Mr. Vatikiotis, who's also an engineer, and was far more detailed, but nonetheless, it's exactly the same point. It applies, and it's not permittable. But another document I want to call your attention to, and it was referenced by the URS, is the one-line email that came from the U.S. Coast Guard saying, we approve this. You got it. It's probably in the backup. Well, I sent you an email today, and I hope all of you have it. I have it here with me in case you didn't. It's from Lieutenant Commander Bryant Huff of the U.S. Coast Guard. He is the Chief of Navigation for the Southeast United States for all waterways. And Lieutenant Commander Huff has initiated an investigation as to why the Army Corps of Engineers did not provide them adequate information prior to asking for them to render an opinion on this project. And I think part of that may come to some of the inexperience of the project manager, but he is very upset about this. And he provided me with, I gave him the survey, the federal channel easement, the submerged land leases.
If you would kind of wrap up, Ms. Coburn, I
have 10 minutes, if you don't mind, Mayor Archie. I have
Well,
Henry
you know,
Coburn.
what I'm going to start doing is that when you want 10 minutes, you bring something in to tell us that you represent somebody.
There's
Don't start off talking and then say, I've got
I
additional time.
apologize, Mayor. I have Henry Coburn here and Annette Alexu here. I'm taking their time.
And myself.
So Commander Huff has withdrawn the approval for the project. It's been sent to the Army Corps of Engineers, and they're reconsidering the project. And I sent that email so that you would have that. Hundreds of Tarpon Springs citizens signed petitions because they were unhappy with this project. We're not going to go rehash all that. You know what the reasons were. But they are grateful that you stopped this project for all those reasons that included function of the docks, loss of the historical appearance, and some of the elements that were inappropriate. But nothing was more problematic for that group than these docks. Most troubling for me and a lot of other people was the application that was submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers, which I've given you a copy of on May 2nd. We got it from the Development Department. If you read the document, you have no reason to believe that you're dealing with a federal waterway at all. The word federal is never mentioned anywhere in the document. You don't have any reason to know there's submerged land leases on both sides of the river, and that in these submerged land areas, there's boats being permitted to dock. And that narrows the lane because there's historical mooring here. So the last thing is there's no mention of an iconic historical structure at all, these are all things pertinent to the Army Corps of Engineer permitting. Even more troubling is the affirmative statement regarding the effect on navigation, and I quote, should not adversely affect navigation. The width of the water body is 160 feet. That's what they put in their application. The structures will not extend into the marked navigational channel. Now, notice there's no mention of a federal channel here. This is not a true statement. It's a false statement. And on the application, it's a crime under both state and federal law to knowingly make a false statement in this application. Yet a false statement was made by the City of Tarpon Springs through its agents. And that's a fact. And that's a big deal. It's a very big deal, and it's a big deal for a good reason. The same reason that Lieutenant Commander Huff is upset about this. Because the statements made in that application will be relied on by other government agencies who are charged with protecting the public. And when the facts are nuanced and inaccurate statements are made in the application, the Coast Guard approved the project, completely unaware they were approving a potential navigational hazard. The persons who are responsible for those statements have to be held accountable. We ask for accountability, and not just for the money, but for the risk to the livelihood of thousands of people and the millions of dollars in federal subsidy that we receive and that we're fortunate to benefit from, the federal dredge, the channel markers, the commercial maritime business activity with the fishermen, the boat builders, the shrimpers, the sponge divers, all the little businesses that support them, and the hundreds of families that live off these businesses. They were all put at risk here. So, as a group, we've worked really hard to bring these issues to you. We've spent a lot of money to do it. This wasn't our task, but we did it. This is one of the premier permitters in Pinellas County. I mean, you can go to the bank on this woman's opinion. It's not permittable. You have a second engineer who tells you it's not permittable. Her experience is not in Tampa, and it's not a few docks. It's hundreds of docks, all in Pinellas County, which is part of the Intercoastal Waterway and deals with the federal channel all the time. So we as a group appreciate the fact that you listened, that you responded. I applaud you. I applaud the city manager for what y'all have done on this, because you have recognized the problem and you've been accountable. You've made sure that steps were taken. So it's not easy. None of this has been easy for any of us. And so I personally appreciate it, and I know hundreds of other people do. And we want to move forward now with the city to work towards improving the sponge docks and working together. Thank you. I'm going to put this in the record in case y'all didn't have this.
Good evening, Anita Prost, 901 Bayshore Drive. I want to thank Commissioner Tarpon, Commissioner Banther, and Commissioner Larson for standing up and doing what was right to bring justice to the city and rectify the wrong that was done. And I want to thank the city manager for listening to them and taking the appropriate steps. You have shown that you are really, really here for the citizens of Tarpon Springs, and you're working for the good of the city. No one ever attacked Eddie Hoffman personally or his professionalism. We all respect Eddie. He's part of Tarpon. He's part of Tarpon family. We just didn't like the plan. It's not indicative of what the sponge docks is all about. We want historical. We want to keep what it's all about. You go any place in town, to Publix, Walmart, people tell you, do not change what people come to see in Tarpon Springs, the old, what it's all about. It's the only place in the United States and in the world, what we have here, and people come to see the old. You've seen it in the newspaper, the letters that people have written to the editors. They didn't want that change. Costa Vaticiotis, I will stand up for him. He is the sponge docks. He is the river. He's worked hard. When we changed the docks and rebuilt the docks during my term as mayor, we dug and we went to Tallahassee, we went to Atlanta, we went all over to make sure we were proper in what we were doing. And as I went through my files, I knew we couldn't do what the city wanted to do. My files you'll never get until I die. And I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to watch this city like a hawk, and I will dig to hell and back if you're wrong and come up here and tell you. Because this is my heritage, my home. Tarpon's family is my home. And I'm a Rotarian, and I will go the four-way test, and I can answer it real hard, Mr. Hoffman. I'll stand up to the four-way test and say that I was right and prove that I was right, because it was told to me that I couldn't do that, and I can. I sit with the city manager every Thursday, chew his ear off, we have a good lunch, and I really applaud him for the actions that he finally took. We're on our way. Let's not go backwards. We're working out very well on the docks. Keep what we have. All of you are part of the docks. We're all part of Tarpon Springs. We are a beautiful historic community, And listen, when Costa Vaticotis tells you something, you can bank on it. You can bank on it. He may have given up his license to retire, but he's going to watch everything. And he knows what he is talking about. And be careful of what you do on the river. You don't want to take it back completely because of what you're going to lose, the money you're going to lose. Watch very cautiously of what you do on the river. And Mr. City Attorney, and Mr. City Manager and Mayor, we need to see what we can recoup from the $300,000 that was spent already. Not a blade was turned, nothing was done. That's a lot of money. We need to look and recoup money for the city of Tarpon Springs out of those fees. That is your responsibility to the taxpayers of this community. Let's see where we can get with that, because that plan is over with and we can go on. We need to see what we can get back because a lot of money was spent.
Chris Rabowski, 1602 Gulf Beach Boulevard, Tarpon Springs, 34689. This presentation tonight, I would have loved to have seen this a long time ago. Why we didn't get this level of detail before they withdrew this permit is beyond me. Because it might not have happened then. What happened? Why not? Why didn't we get all that detail before? This is the sort of sunlight that I was talking about earlier, that like along the Bayou project. Why didn't we get all the details about that either? It's just puzzling to me. And I have respect for you, Mr. Hoffman. I did want to mention something to you about a comment that you made, however. I disagree. Public forum is government. So for Ms. Coburn to come up here and speak in public, that's how it goes. No backdoor deals or anything in your office. This is the place to do this stuff publicly. And the Army Corps of Engineers has a comment period for the public. And so for Mr. Vatikiotis, that's his method. He didn't have to go to you. I agree. It would have been nice if he had consulted you. But that's not how the procedure works. The procedure is that they apply. You apply, and then people get to comment. All right? That's just how that goes, whether you like that man or agree or disagree with what he said. And that's the other thing that's got me puzzled, is that there was I don't know how to characterize it other than a character assassination of this Costa Vatikiotis. I mean, after the permit had already been withdrawn. I don't want my government attacking anybody that speaks up here, whether it's me or Ms. Coburn or Anita Protos or Mr. Vatikiotis. Tax dollars being spent on research on a man to find out that he had been chastised by his profession? That can't be allowed. We can't have our government doing research on people to dig up dirt on them just because you don't like what they say. I don't want a government like that. Nobody wants their government doing that. And I'm further puzzled because the last meeting I attended at the very end, the city manager mentioned that the buck stopped with him and that he would not be firing anybody. I mean, that's my recollection of it. So what happened, and it's very confusing to me. I mean, now you've gone back on that, unless I don't recall how that meeting ended, but you said you were going to post the meeting material a week in advance, and also that basically you were going to take full responsibility. So I don't know what happened. And then to go and accuse this man, I mean, professional engineer for all these things that were, you ought not to be throwing stones like that when you live in a glass house. You know, the city is supposed to be doing in-process surveys when somebody has a roof put on. They're not doing that. You know that? The city does, it says right on the permit, have a ladder ready, because they're going to come out and inspect that roof to make sure that the roofer's doing the job properly. Ask anybody here who's got a roof put on if they've ever done that. It's not happening. Now, maybe that's going to be fixed since Mr. DePasqua's no longer with us. You know, they just send in pictures. So basically, the city's guilty of the same things that you're accusing this man of. Just signing off, sealing a permit, but not physically inspecting it. And that's not right. You know, those are put there for safety reasons. Thank you.
That's some hard acts to follow right there. Jim Coliana, Circle Drive, Tarpon Springs, Florida. You know, I read a lot about this. I didn't get to 600 pages, and I'm glad, but I got enough to read that there's plenty of blame to go around, okay? Misinformation, not enough people attending the meetings. Over the 4 years, this whole thing got lost until you did, our elected officials, you did what the public asked you to do. That's the American way, right? We have a constitution. People come to you and they say, I don't like what's going on. I don't understand it anymore. Please stop it. And you stopped it. And that, in my mind, is where it should have ended. Not coming here tonight and it's a battle. I didn't do it. They did it. He's wrong. I'm right. Why are you even hearing this in a public meeting? That's not your job. You made a decision. Live with your decision. You really did. Think about that. Why are we here allowing everybody to say, he did it, she did it, I did it, they didn't do it right. Yeah, we can get it. No, we can't get it. What purpose have we proved? That's not what Tarpon Springs is about. I ask you as a citizen, and I'm asking you as a former commissioner, that don't allow this to happen. It makes us the laughing stock of the county. It wasn't necessary. Nobody got demeaned in this. Nobody ever said anybody did anything wrong. They said we don't want it. Okay? Point, counterpoint, point, counterpoint. How ridiculous are we going to get? It's over. Can we end it tonight? Do we have to read it again tomorrow in the paper and then next week in the paper again? I would appreciate it. I would sincerely appreciate it. You guys have done a great job. I appreciate that more than anything. Please keep doing what you're doing, and that's listening to the people and do what they want, because that's what you're charged to do. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Mr. Hoffman, I don't know if anything that was said or Mr. Searing that you feel like you need to make a comment on?
I'll just say that maybe we need to agree to disagree. And as far as that permit goes, I believe even though Ms. Coburn, these people, they're experts and all kinds of experts from all kinds of places that we could all line up and talk about their expertise and whether we could do this or not. And we'll never know. And so anyway, again, I appreciated you giving me all the time that you did. So anyway, thank you very much.
Well, I've already told you privately that, I apologize for some things, Mr. Hoffman. I know that some people say, why did we do this and the rest of it. For me, it was very educational to know what people that you've given money to has to say, And it gets down to who report do you believe? It's like, do you believe the other person's lawyer or do you believe yours? I mean, we have a very reputable firm that talks about the permit was possible. We have certain allegations that I don't even know why we paid all that money to them, because it seemed like everybody else could just look at it and tell that you couldn't do it, you know. And there's a firm that is known throughout that says that there's a process that you need to go through. For me, I'd like the people to know that we went through, we believe was the right process to get where we needed to go. With that, you know, I know some people say that they don't want to give up any part of the challenge, but I don't know how we ever started on this project. I think we should have told you, Mr. Harper, not to do anything with the docks, because I don't know where we was going to build them at if we weren't going to take part of the challenge. I mean, that seems to be a little obvious that some parts of the challenge would be gone. But I'm going to try to do what I share with the city manager, and that's to try to move on with this. It has been somewhat disheartening. I say to you, Mr. Hoffman, that to abandon this project probably was the right thing to do, not from a perspective of this would not have been a good project in the end, but it started to be so controversial. It started to be one where what is the truth start to lie with who was talking at that point in time. You know, who's telling the truth. And it started to be a project that instead of bringing us together as a community, the irony of it is that, you know, we're in the process of being considered for an all-American city because of the way we work together with each other and collaborate in all the facets of what happens in Tarpon that's good. And we get to a point whereas dollars that was going to be spent to try to help an area that all of us appreciate. I don't think that anybody don't appreciate the history of what happened at the sponge docks, you know. Understanding that that is one of the destination points to me in this area as well as Florida itself. And to get to a point where we're at, where there's a lot of accusations and the rest, and I know some say, hey, you know, we should go ahead and see whether it will be permitted. I would hope that URS would continue to move in terms of that area, you know, to see. Because the bottom line, which seems so simple, is one that maybe it's not as simple, maybe it's just me fooling myself, is that either you can do something or you can't. If you can do it, then it will be permitted. If you can't do it, then it won't be permitted. Now, what was said was people don't want it. Now, that's a different story. If people don't want it, then why even do it? To me, that's why we abandoned it, because it seemed that it was too divisive. Let's just move ahead. So right now, hopefully, we have some projects, Mr. City Manager, that everybody can kind of agree on. We pull together on those projects. We make the sponge dock area look better. You know, everybody's happy, making money. You know, you know, it's the irony of being sitting up here is that when people want to come to that podium, say all kind of not so nice things about government, which all of us represent up here, that's great. You know, nobody defends anybody up here because this is what we get paid for. And I tell them, you know, you can make this kind of money working at McDonald's. So there ain't a lot of money going into this, you know, but you can accuse people of bringing other people's integrity into question, but the same people that sit up there constantly bring people's integrity into question. You know, it's the ultimate hypocrisy that I see. And people that know me out there know that, hey, what I say privately, I say publicly. You know, I'm not one to hold my peace. I'm going to let this go because, you know, I've said, and like I told my friend, the city manager, hey, sometimes you have to move on. Sometimes you have to bite your tongue because after a while, it doesn't do anything for us as a community. And like I say, hopefully, once we get through with this project, there are some dollars that we can do some other things. You know, I'm not sure how we get consensus. That's what you get paid for, I guess, is to bring us consensus in terms of the projects that we have. So with that, we'll be moving on, and you'll still be, you know, respected, I believe, in this town as a great architect and stuff. Now we'll move to item number 16, which is appointments, Charter Revision Committee. And the board is already, by virtue of submitting some names, have appointed Mr. Frank Diodinato, Ms. Catherine Peters, Jim Colianis, Anita Protas, and Dan Jenkins to the Charter Revision Committee, but there are two additional individuals that we have to select. One, I guess, never did was conveyed to you, Ms. Jacobs, is that I had told Ms. Hickey if she could tell you, Mr. Elliott.
We did
think he
do an
submitted
amendment.
one. Okay.
If everyone should
I
have.
didn't see it in this one here. Maybe it's on the desk.
Would you like me to read the second choices that we have?
Yes, if
So
you would.
We have, your second choice was Herb Elliott. Vice Mayor Larson's second choice was Janet Saniger. Commissioner Terrapini's second choice was Chris Alafuzis. Commissioner Banther's second choice was Mary Clemens Coburn. And Commissioner Sieber's second choice was Debbie Conley.
And I'm not sure how we do this. You know, normally what we do is everybody select one. But since we've all selected one,
Each commissioner needs to select two. And the two with the highest vote would make the sixth and seventh member of that board. And if there's a tie, then we would have to break the tie.
okay, so help me out when we go through this. So we got Herb Elliott, you know.
Okay.
What will we, how will we,
Are
everybody
you-
will
are you
vote whether
going first?
I and that.
Each person would pick two people at one time.
And then we'll count it.
Okay.
And then
She has a
we'll-
whole
I'll have
grid.
a tally.
Yeah,
All
a
right.
whole grid. She got-
We'll start down there with you, Commissioner Vance.
Thank you. And this is difficult because there's, well, I'm sure they're all very, 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 very qualified people. But I'll obviously pick the one that I chose, which is Ms. Coburn, and my second choice will be Chris Alahuzis.
Oh, Vice Mayor?
Janet Saniker and Chris Alahuzis.
Commissioner Tarpon?
Chris Alahuzis and Ms. Coburn.
Janet Saniker and Deb Connolly.
And I guess we have one already, and I'll say Deb Connolly. Does that mean we have to go through that one again? then?
You did one.
Oh, and Chris Alahuzis.
Okay, so Chris Alahuzis is our sixth member, and we have a tie now between Janet Saniker, Mary Clemens Coburn, and Deb Conley.
We'll start down with you.
Janet Saniker.
Ms. Coburn.
Deb Connolly.
Janet Saniker.
I'll do Ms. Coburn.
We still have a tie. We have a tie
So
now
we'll
between
start
Ms.
down there with you
Saniker
then.
and Mrs.
I'm going to keep
Coburn.
picking the person that I put on there.
Well, I mean, but the only thing that's different is that.
Yeah.
This is a little
that,
different. We
you
haven't
know,
had this.
I'll start off with Janet Saniker then.
Okay.
You know,
And I'll do Ms. Coburn.
Janet Saniker.
Ms. Coburn.
Janet Saniker.
so you have that one?
Yep.
So who's the two?
So now we just need to make a motion, the ones that already exist, the six members, Chris Alahuzis, and the seventh member is Janet Saniker.
So moved.
Second.
Any public comments on this? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther,
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Mayor Archie.
Yes. Next, we go to Budget Advisory Committee, and it's to reappoint regular members, Martin Peters and Gerald Goin. It was nice to be able to say that, Martin. Gerald Goin to another 3-year term. The terms expire March 17, 2017. And do you want to take that, or you want to go to?
If I could, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Marty Peters and Gerald Goen.
I second.
Okay. Any public comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther.
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Mayor Archie.
Yes. Now we have to appoint someone as an alternate 2 and someone as an alternate 1. I guess we'll start with 2 first. I'll go Frank Diodonato, since I went last all those times. Is the one that I would select for.
So we're just saying a name now?
Yeah, we'll just go through that one.
Dan Jenkin?
I'll do Brad Smither.
Brad Smither.
Dan Jenkin.
We have a
So we have a tie there.
for that alternate.
Okay. Well, I'll go Dan Jenkins.
Dan Jenkin.
Dan Jenkin.
That's it.
Can we get a motion for that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Jenkins.
Any public comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther.
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Mayor Archie.
Yes, we have another appointment to fill the unexpired term of Maria Siebert. You want to, we go through the same process? Commissioner Banther?
I'll do Brad Smither.
Brad Smither?
Wow, Brad Smither.
Brad Smither.
I'll go with Brad Smither.
Any public comments? Roll call.
We need a motion.
Did we get a motion? Did we get a motion?
Motion to put Brad Smither as alternate number 2.
Second.
That's alternate number 1.
Also number 1, my bad.
I'm sorry, and who seconded?
I did.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther.
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Mayor Archie.
Yes. We have Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and we need to select one, either Mr. Clemens or Mr. Howard.
Jason Clemens.
Jason Clemens.
Jason Clemens.
Jason Clemens?
Jason Clemens.
Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah. Any public comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther.
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Mayor Archie.
Yes. We have the Heritage Preservation Board, and first action that's being asked is that if we would approve Ms. Athena Clemens Sadulas to a term to expire May 31st, 2018. Can we get a motion on that?
So moved.
Second. Any public comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther.
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson.
Yes.
Mayor Archie.
Yes. And now we have to select someone.
That's it.
Oh,
It
that's
wa-
it.
It was either.
Oh, it's either or. I'm sorry. Okay, that's great. Not have to make any more enemies than
Sorry.
And with that, we'll go to staff comments.
David?
Public comment?
It's actually too late, but if you holler it out from right there, we'll hear it.
I just want to say that City Hall, I know something went down today, I heard that earlier. The people who are involved with City Hall, I'm president of the Merchants Association. I'm speaking for myself, though. I've been president for many, many years. I resigned, I'm back again. City Hall supports us 100%. Open door policy is with us all at any time. I can walk in, I get phone calls back. I don't know what, I know there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know it, I don't want to know it. But I'm just telling you that City Hall represents and supports our merchants in Tarpon Springs. Thank you.
Chief, I thought David was the chief. But the chief. Thought you were the chief. Chief.
No comments, Mayor.
Mr. Attorney.
No comments.
City Manager.
No, sir.
Madam Clerk.
No comment.
You feeling better?
I feel better. It just sounds horrible.
Commissioner Banther.
No comments, sir.
Vice Mayor.
No comment.
Commissioner Tarpon.
I would just say that I am ecstatic that the city of Tarpon Springs is going to have fireworks again this year. That's all.
Commissioner Siebel.
No comments.
And I don't have any comments, so we will adjourn this meeting at 9:46, I believe it says.